Hello everyone, welcome to What If Garou Gets Teleported to Highschool DXD Special. Chapter 1. Garou has been punched by Saitama in the park. The punch was so strong that it knocked out the hero hunter, and suddenly a portal opened in the ground where Garou was laying, and it began sucking Terio and Garou. Garou could only hear Terio screaming when he was knocked out, and then he woke up. Garou said, "Where am I?" Garou heard Terio, "Mister, you're awake." Garou said, "Who knocked me out?" "It was a hero, remember, do you remember?" Terio answered. Garou said, "What hero?" Terio answered, "He really must have hit you harder in your spot." Suddenly a bright light occurred on top of them, and they saw 3 monsters fall down. "So this is where you and your human friend have run off to. We've been watching you, Garou, and I didn't felt a monster in you, not even a bit." Garou didn't listen as he prepared himself for a fight. Senior Centipede then began to go underground, and Garou began observing in the ground waiting for him to appear. Garou then said to Terio, "Hey kid, you need to start running away from this place suddenly." Garou gave a terrifying glare at Terio until Senior Centipede suddenly appeared underneath Terio's feet. Garou then pushed Terio as he was about to get killed by Senior Centipede. Whoa, that one was close. Royal Ripper seeing this said to Garou, "So you decided to be our enemy." Bug God shouted at Garou, "You call yourself the hero hunter, but you haven't killed any." "I knew it, you're nothing but a fake." Garou shouted back at them, "Goddammit, I hate assholes like you all." Royal Ripper, Bug God and Senior Centipede then began to charge right in front of Garou. We hear Dr. Gina say to Zombieman suddenly, "No matter how much effort they put into it, every living being has a certain individual limitation to their growth. A living being has set a growth limit, grow too strong, and the burden on the wielder could make them lose control like a monster that has lost their mind. That is why God has made each and every living being their own limiter, so that it cannot grow further to a certain degree, for their own survival and sanity. This growth restriction is known as limiter." However, he had pushed himself to surpass his limitations and succeeded in removing his limiter. We then see Garou with his black skin-tight sweater get destroyed as he kills Senior Centipede by breaking him in half, and he also manages to wound Bug God. After a while, the fight was over and Garou was killed by Royal Ripper, and he even managed to capture Terio, who is just nearby. Bug God, on the other hand, jumped back up to the portal, but suddenly the portal closed on him, but due to his durability, he made it through. While Bug God will report everything to their leader, Royal Ripper decided to look for a quiet place where he could rip Terio to pieces. A couple of hours has passed and a red-haired girl came and she looked at the 2 dead bodies, but she could sense that this man is still alive, but not fully. She guessed that he must be dying, so she planned on turning him into a devil. But suddenly he opened his eyes and said, "Huh?" as he then began to stand up. It shocked her at first, for his wounds are so fatal, and she began to sense something different from this man. Garou looked up, not minding the girl standing just a few feet away from him, as he then says to himself, "Did I die and did Terio survive, or was he?" Garou remembered as he looked up at the moon that before he got defeated, he noticed that Terio was still nearby, and he guessed that they must have seen Terio and brought him somewhere. Garou then said to himself, "I better cover this wounds first before I." He noticed that his wounds are being covered by his blood, and Garou then snaps his neck and prepares to head to the monster who took Terio, for with his new senses, Garou could sense where the monster went. He noticed a person standing close to him, but he didn't care, for he must save Terio. The red-haired girl said, "Hey, wait, I need to ask you something, stop ignoring me." Garou rushed where his new senses in what he thinks must be from him becoming a monster. Garou then heads to a dark alleyway and notices many dead bodies. He then keeps going forward, for he knows what monster caused this. Meanwhile, in an abandoned building, Royal Ripper said to Terio, "Sorry, I haven't played with you yet for slicing those humans who seem have been stress reliving. Yeah, at least you didn't try escaping, cause if you did, I will hunt you down and tear you to pieces, just like what I'm gonna do now." "Why are you doing this?" Royal Ripper answered Terio, "It's because I'm a monster. I'll tell you a little secret. Actually, I don't care who wins this war, as long as I get to do my purpose, which is slicing people to pieces." "Someone help me," Terio shouted. Royal Ripper said, "No one can save you now let's start with your town." Terio shouted, "Please someone save me." As Royal Ripper was about to slice Terio town, Garou began smashing through the wall of the room, and Royal Ripper seeing this, he was filled with lust, and seeing Garou filled him with anger, as he shouted, "You." He swung his blade at Garou, who just broke the blade in half as he grabbed it with his right hand. Garou's eyes was filled with a killing intent towards Royal Ripper, who he just one-shotted with his left hand using the iron whirlwind murderous fist on the monster. The monster was then shredded to pieces, but Garou still stabbed by the tip of the other blade of Royal Ripper. Garou then pulled the blade out as he said to Terio, "Hey kid, let's leave this place." He then looks at the body of Royal Ripper, and he took the pieces of cloth that he could still wear to cover his upper body. He then said, "What the hell is this?" as he looks at what's inside the bandages of Royal Ripper. After covering his upper body with Royal Ripper's clothing, he then tied a cloth around his neck and they then began to move forward, but before that, Terio asked Garou, "How did you find me?" Garou answered, it's because I'm a monster. They then went out to the building and Garou noticed the red-haired person just waiting outside. Garou then said to her, what do you want? I just want to ask you something, who are you and what are these beings that you are fighting? They don't look like demons or anything I know. Garou answered, I'll tell you, if you will allow us to stay in your house for the night for I got a kid with me and I am feeling kinda tired. After a while, the redhead agreed and they followed her to her house. Garou doesn't trust her, but they need to hide somewhere for he doesn't know where the other monster is at and they need somewhere to hide for a while. Well, Garou figures out where they are and Terrio needs somewhere safe to stay since he might be hunted down by the other monster. Garou then began to keep an eye on her as they walked behind her. Chapter 2. After hearing the news from Bug God, Gyoro then instantly went to that place in her true form. She checked where the portal was at and she could feel a surge amount of energy emanating from it, so she gathered some monsters and began to create a plan. Meanwhile, the redhead brought them to the OCR. What is this place? Garou has so many questions, same with Terrio, and it was nighttime, so it is a little bit dark and they can't recognize the names of the places in the building they went into. The redhead then said, okay, answer my question, who are you? Terrio answered, I'm Terrio. And what about you? Oh, me, I am Garou. Garou observes for any suspicion just in case if they heard of him. My name is Rai. She was interrupted when Garou instantly spoke to her. So you're a spoiled rich kid. Rias was offended with what he said and she said, no, my name is riasgremory. And I'm also akeno. A voice came from the room. Garou and Terrio look at where it came from and they just noticed the other person in the room. Rias said, welcome to the Occult Research Club and I'm its president. Garou said, so this is a school? Yes it is. Rias answered. Garou doesn't like schools for it gives him bad memories, but they need a place to stay for the night as he thought about the situation him and Terrio is at. She then asked him, about my question. Garou stopped her from finishing as he said, I'll answer your question tomorrow cause right now, I'm feeling tired and I need to have some peace and quiet for now. Akeno then turned the sofa into a bed and Garou seeing this fell right asleep for he didn't care what happened since he can't feel any danger from it and Terrio was surprised at what happened and when Garou fell asleep instantly on the bed, Terrio said, hey mister, could you at least save some space for me? Time skip to the next day, Psycho successfully learned how to control it, but it seems that something is interfering with it and it suddenly started opening in places that it saw through Psycho's mind, such as the Monster Association. It sucked in a couple of monsters including one cadre, overgrown rover and some random objects in the Monster Association. Back to the OCR. Garou wakes up and when he opens his eyes, he sees a nude body and he started to jump away from the bed and he accidentally pushed Terrio out of bed and Terrio woke up and said, what happened? And when he saw what Garou was looking at, he became embarrassed. Garou shouted, put some clothes on, will you? Rias said, what kind of clothes are those? For when we tried to remove it due to the blood in it. It seems to be attached to you. Garou notices it and he thought to himself that it must be due to his monsterification. Akeno then said, by the way, I wanted to ask you this when wake up, what are you Garou cause no humans couldn't survive the injuries you had and who were you fighting? Garou then said, fine, I'll tell you but you have to answer my questions after I answer them okay and put some clothes on you slut. Rias agreed and while she put on clothes, Garou was looking away with Terrio and when she was finished. Garou answered, you want to know what I am, fine. I am a monster and those guys that I'm fighting are from the Monster Association. She asked Garou, what's Monster Association? Garou then said, you next, answer my question first and I'll tell you, where am I? They're in Japan. Rias answered and Garou thought at first that they must have traveled through time and that they ended up in the era before they abandoned their countries to form the supercontinent. Garou then said, what's your question again? Rias and Garou talked and after a while, Garou and Terrio left the building for Garou was going to find the place where this portal opened and they'll use it to go back home. They left the school as fast as they can and then they were walking down the road, they see many buildings with different posters and billboards on them and suddenly they both hear people screaming and running away. When they look at the direction where it's coming from, they suddenly saw a huge blast headed towards them. Garou grabs Terrio by the back of his shirt and run as fast as he can and when the blast was gone, Garou drops Terrio and as he sees the source of this blast and Garou said in his mind, so this is disaster level dragon. He then says to Terrio, why are you standing here like a freaking idiot? Get the hell out of here, we gotta split up and ran away. Boo but mister, I can't make it alone. I don't care. Just go away. I'm not your babysitter kid, you're making everything more difficult, I already saved your damn life once. What more do you want? Take care of yourself for once. Garou shouts at Terrio. Terrio then cries and began running far away from the place. As it notices Terrio running far away, it tries to fire another blast until it heard someone underneath it shout, the hell you're looking at? As Garou then began delivering strikes on its leg to gain its attention. After hitting it, Garou looks up at it and said, "Ha, how's that huh, bet it stings a bye wait, too close I'm dead," Garou shouts as he was covered in the blast of overgrown rover. Garou shouts in his mind while he was being covered in flames, "I'm dead. No way I can survive, I want a soda. Dead cause of some ugly kid. Fuck not like this, come on, I said I wanted to fight actual heroes that are strong like the monsters, I never even wanted to fight actual monsters in the first place, and I wasn't done yet. But now it's over." Garou then had a flashback of him trying to cheer on the monsters he idolized on TV. The blast pushed Garou so deep underground, and once overgrown rover checked on who he fired his blast at, he sees the man still standing. Overgrown rover fired multiple blasts on him, which he dodged, and he begins to jump out of the crater he was in, and he began jumping and climbing in the buildings. As overgrown rover fired his blast on the buildings, Garou kept on dodging, and when overgrown rover walks underneath the giant hole he made in the buildings and walks looking around for the man, and as soon as he was beside on one of the tall buildings, Garou was there hanging on its edge with his right hand grabbing the tip of the roof of the building. He then let goes and drops himself straight to the dog-like monster's head, and as soon as he was about to land on it, he shouted, "Don't think it will be easy, stupid dog. Sit." As he then forms a fist with his right hand, and he uses his full strength on the strike which he then delivers on overgrown rover's head. Overgrown rover was then defeated, and the strike was so strong that it created a huge crater, similar to the one where Garou was hit by the blast a while ago. As Garou was going to find Terrio, he sees him about a distance, but when Garou looked in the sides, he can sense that there are other monsters nearby, and he said to himself, "This is not safe for Terrio. Taking them out would be easy since I defeated a dragon-level monster." Suddenly Garou was pinned down into the ground by some sort of force, and Garou suddenly heard a familiar voice, and it was no doubt Jaioro, the one who he met in the lair of the Monster Association. What Garou could hear from Jaioro was that he acknowledges how he defeated one of their dragon-level monsters. As Garou was being pinned to the ground by Jaioro's telekinesis, he started to get knocked out. Garou could hear the cries of Terrio as he falls into sleep. He then hears the kid's voice saying, "Wake up mister, please wake up." After hearing this, Garou wakes up and he finds himself back in the OCR. He says to Terrio, "What happened?" Terrio answered, "Well, they came and saved us." As he pointed at Akeno and Rias. Rias then said, "We heard that there was appearances of monsters, and we figured that they may be coming for you based on the information you gave on Akeno, so we came as fast as we could. If it wasn't for us, you might have been killed by that monster who could control gravity, and Terrio might have also been killed by one of the monsters that were roaming the streets. So I advise you to come stay with us for a while until the streets will be safe." Garou wants to refuse, but looking at Terrio, he then says, "Fine, but as long as you don't do anything suspicious or anything, and second is that I do what I want, and if you have a problem with that, then I'm leaving with the kid, you got that?" Rias said, "Agreed." As Garou and Terrio were asleep, Rias then ordered Kiba and Kaneko to watch them, just in case one of them tries to leave. A few hours later, somewhere in Garou's world, another portal opened again in the lair of the Monster Association, but this time it was during the War of the Monster Association and Heroes, and another portal also opened in Q City. Two heroes were sucked in, Puri Prisoner and Darkshine. Blacksperm, who is one of the cadres of the Monster Association, watched as this happened, and he said to himself, "Not another portal, I thought Jaioro had it under control." He watched as it pulled him too, and he shouted, "Oh shit." As Darkshine and Puri Prisoner arrived in the world Garou was currently at, Darkshine said, "Where the hell are we?" Puri Prisoner then said, "I don't know where we are, but there are certainly handsome men in here, and look, I see Watchdog Man here and some C-class heroes, let's go to them." Bull Blacksperm, on the other hand, hid away instantly. Some of the people passing by were creep out while some laughed due to how the appearances of the heroes are like. Bear wakes up, and while Terrio is still sleeping on the edges of the bed, for Garou has took many of its spaces due to his sleep. Bear then places the blanket on Terrio as he then leaves the bed. Bear looks to the side and he sees Akeno naked again. He said, "What's the matter with you, put some clothes on." Akeno said, "I can only sleep while naked, that's why I do this when I go to sleep." Bear shouted while facing away from her, "Put some clothes on." After she finishes on putting on her clothes, Garou asks her, "Do you have any sweater or jacket for me to cover my upper body, for I'm feeling a little cold?" Akeno said yes. She then gives a school jacket to Garou, who wears it, and after that, Garou said to her, "I'll be heading outside, but don't worry. I'll try to stay out of trouble this time." As Garou was about to leave, the doors opened and a small white-haired female wearing a school uniform just like Akeno came in, and she said to Garou, "Where are you going?" Garou asked, "Who are you first, little girl?" Kaneko pouted and thought to herself, "I'll hit him using about half my rook strength, that'll tell him." She instantly fired a punch to his stomach which he deflects easily. He said, "You're doing it in slow motion for me," as he then gave a smirk. "It's Kaneko," she said. "And Kaneko, the little girl, it kinda fits." Garou then laughs a little bit and left. Rias came and said to Kaneko. Kaneko, I felt some force come off of that, you used your evil piece strength did you? Kaneko simply nodded, as Rias and Akeno were a bit shocked at what happened. Rias said, we don't know if what he said was all true for we don't have any information about the Monster Association or Hero Association, who knows that maybe he could be in one of the 3 clans, Kaneko and Akeno. Keep an eye on that boy okay? Kaneko and Akeno said, right Prez. As Garou walks, the students are frightened by the way he looks, some of them even said, he must be one of those delinquents who transferred in here from a different school. Yeah, tell me about it. As Garou walks but this time towards the opposite direction of the street where he fought that og monster, he thought to himself damn, I can't find any restaurants where I can eat, I should at least have asked one of them where the nearest restaurant is located at. Garou suddenly sees a familiar person and he thought to himself, there is no mistaking it, it's Puri prisoner, I don't know how he got here, but who cares, I'm drowning in power, my hunger has vanished and now it's time to hunt you Puri prisoner. Garou charges at Puri prisoner but was instantly stopped by Watchdog Man. Garou said, oi oi, 2S class heroes, I guess it's my lucky day. Garou then did a stance, but this stance was more of a defense as he put his weight on his rear leg and both his hands have their own palms opened. Garou then provoked them by doing the hand signal come here, the 2S class heroes charged, but Garou just kicked Puri prisoner once and Puri prisoner crashed into the wall of a building and created a big hole on it. Watchdog Man dodges his attacks and tries to hit Garou, while Garou blocks his attacks and began reading his fighting style. After reading them, he smiled and Garou instantly deflects his attacks. If it wasn't for Garou's monsterfication and him being a martial art genius, he would have lost and retreated. Garou then sees an opening in Watchdog Man and he strikes it and as Watchdog Man was distracted by it, Garou then hits his vital points and with one final blow, he sent Watchdog Man crashing in one of the buildings. As Garou was going to walk away, he heard someone walking behind him say, so you are the hero hunter, you're the one who was fighting Puri prisoner and Watchdog Man, I heard it from a distance and I came to check if they're okay. So you're Darkshine. Garou then laughs as he said Darkshine, prepare now to be hunted just like your 2 fellow S-claws. He then did the same stance he used on the 2S class hero, he then provoked Darkshine the same way he did a while ago. Darkshine took the bait and Garou turned around and used his back leg to deliver a kick on Darkshine. It was so strong it sent Darkshine on the ground and slightly created a crater. Garou said to Darkshine while smiling, this can't be all you've got, can it? If I beat you Darkshine, it would prove that my attack power can't succeed against anyone. Darkshine then begins to use his muscles to spin himself up in the air, then he falls back on the ground on his feet and was surprised by Garou's strength. Darkshine then says to Garou, it would be such a waste to let your premium muscles rot away in wherever you live, but in the Hero Association, we have the best sport equiped gym. If you could change your mind, thoroughly atone for your sins, and reforge the muscles of your mind, you might become a true hero. Garou then remembers when Jaioro was trying to make him join and he said, you people, Monster Association, Hero Association and other associations and organizations you will all be annihilated tonight, so die now in peace. Darkshine then smiled and said to Garou, then allow me to end it right here. Darkshine then buffs up and begins to tackle Garou. Sweat begin to trickle down Garou's forehead, if this lands, it would be instant death. Should I deflect that? As Garou's techniques begins to fail by Darkshine's strength, he says to himself, deflection is not possible, there's so much power in a single tackle, not even that shitty geezer water stream rock smashing fist can deflect it. Darkshine's attack landed on Garou and it broke multiple ribs in his body as he was then pushed by the sheer force of Darkshine's strength. As Garou was buried by rubbles, Darkshine begins to say something in order to experience his divine techniques. I had offered to spar with Silverver Fang Sansan in the past, I was mostly the aggressor who forced the action, but he beat always me up. I know because I have experienced Garou and you are still too green. You have been winning so far because of luck, had you not challenged Atomic Samurai-san, Tatsumaki-san Flashy Flash Kun and King-san. You would have been dead before you even get to show those techniques you've worked so hard on. I don't know what pissed you off so much you started hunting heroes, but you should know your place. After hearing what he said, Garou's hand then forms a grip as he then came bursting out of the rubble, while some of the rubble came landing on Darkshine's face. Garou enraged by what Darkshine said to him, he then says to Darkshine, yeah, they're strong. If you're able to unleash violence without ever questioning whether it's right like you are, you can win any fight. It means you've thrown away your kindness. It all stinks, the stench of hypocrisy is making me sick. Is this situation supposed to part of your little morality play too? The protagonist is filled with strength cause of the good cause he's fighting for, huh? You were saying some bullshit about me playing monster. You people think you aren't playing hero too, all you heroes are shit and what really grinds my gears is that the shittier you are, the more the public loves you. Darkshine just ignoring what Garou is thinking to himself, he can still move after sustaining that kind of fatal injury. Garou then says, "That's why I fight, I will put my life on the line to crush justice." Garou then shouts, "You'll never stop my monster play." Gyoro was drawn by the noise that's been going on since a while ago, and when he checked, he sees the hero hunter charging at Darkshine. He then watched them on top of a building. Darkshine then thinks to himself, "Not a problem, my muscles can guard against any attack, I'll defeat him in one go the instant he stops attacking." That said, am I seeing things or are his movements actually getting faster? I'm not seeing things, he is actually getting faster. He's getting faster with alarming momentum. He's not stopping, there's no sign of him wanting to stop. It's like a dozen of martial artists focusing their attacks on me. He keeps bearing down on me like a tidal wave. What is going on? For instant the word defeat came up in my mind. Darkshine then says to himself, "Impossible, absolutely impossible, I cannot lose in a clash of physical bodies. My way of building muscles is way different from prisoner and tank top." Water stream rock smashing fist in the left hand, iron whirlwind murderous fist on the right hand. Garou says this to himself. This is how he can be broken, like both geezers unleashing a series of attacks, even this incredible fortress of muscles can be torn apart without mercy. This secret joint technique that even a world-class genius cannot normally perform alone, Crossfang Dragon Slayer fist was acquired by him subconsciously. By forcing himself through suicidal training, dojo challenges and hero hunts. This man is able to acquire physical techniques that go beyond water flowing, smashing rock fist and iron whirlwind murderous fist. Together with Silverfang they are known as the twin pillars of the hero world. Before the overwhelming defense of Darkshine, who is considered to be at the pinnacle of physical combat, Garou did not falter. In a battle of the strong, the harder he is pushed, the more he can unleash his true ability and experience growth. Darkshine shouts at Garou, "Don't get too carried away, I'll unleash my full power." As Darkshine says, "Super Alloy Bazooka." Garou sees it and he tries to block it with both his palms, as Darkshine says, "Is this his body? It's a monster." Garou's limiter is starting to break as we see Garou blocking the punch of Darkshine with both his palms. He then notices Gyoro from a distance, while Gyoro being impressed by his feat, decided to test this new thing he could do with the portal. Back in Garou's homeworld, Tatsumaki leveled the Monster Association's base to the surface, and Psycho's Gyoro opened a portal in that base, and it sucked the debris in. Bear, ready to take his revenge on Gyoro, suddenly sees lots of debris falling from the sky. Garou then hears, "Hey mister, what happened? I've been looking everywhere for you." Perry along with Kaneko just arrived and the debris are now closing in. Garou decided to protect them both by letting them lay on the ground, while his body took the full force of the debris, since it's already too late to warn them. "What am I doing?" Garou thought to himself. Blacksperm sees Gyoro, and as he was glad in seeing him, he suddenly sees debris falling, and he shouted, "Oh shit, what is Gyoro doing?" He then gets buried by the debris. Chapter 3. Garou struggled as he carried all the debris on his back, as he kept it from crushing him, Kaneko and the kid. Garou said to them, try to make a small opening where you could crawl out of here, and once you're out, leave me here for I can handle myself." Kaneko's cheeks glowed red, and she suddenly felt indebted to this man who saved her and this kid. She then decided to use her rook powers to smash the debris burying them, as Garou is going through another transformation, and once she cleared the debris burying them. As they were safe from the debris, Terio and Kaneko began to hurry to the OCR. Suddenly a red circle glowed, and out of it came Rias, Akeno and Kiba, and as Kaneko told what happened to Rias, she then teleported them back to OCR. Issei and Asia, who were waiting back in OCR for Rias and the others to arrive, they suddenly see a red circle glowing and the president and the others suddenly appeared. Issei said, "What happened and who's this new fellow?" Rias said, "Now is not the time, we must heal him." As they removed the school jacket Garou borrowed, it was already shredded and dusty. Once they removed it, Garou spoke, which shocked everyone since he's still conscious despite having this much fatal injuries. Garou said as everyone heard, "Shit, my body is acting strange, it's not obeying me anymore. Did I overdo it? And here I thought I've already surpassed the human limit, hee. Because I'm still not dead. I'm an idiot. Shit. Ouch." The pain in Garou's body are reacting as Garou tried to sit down in the sofa properly. Garou said again, "I feel cold and I can barely see. In the end, I'm just a human in every definition of the word." Garou coughed and continued to speak. "But so are heroes, and even the monsters look like ugly and weak humans to me. I always knew the standpoints of heroes and monsters. Just what was I trying to do? I hate unfairness. I hate people creating unfairness. Was I just a human this whole time? So in the end, did I want to die like this?" As he finished talking, Garou seemed to be giving in to death already as he laid down on the sofa with half of his body wide spread and his eyes began to close. Kaneko's eyes widened, for she didn't get to thank Garou for saving her. Suddenly memories of Garou saving her begins to run in her mind. Ria said, Asia heal him, this man doesn't die too easily, I've seen him survive something like this. Asia then began healing him, but it might take too long due to how fatal the wounds are. Black Sperm then hears Gyoro's voice in his head, Black Sperm, head to Garou's locations, I can detect where he is, he's close by, I'll guide you to where he is. Black Sperm said as he formed tick marks on his head, so you knew that I was here and you still buried me in the debris. Gyoro answered, I knew you'll survive it, now go to Garou and kill his new friends Fopper, they are a threat to my plans. Black Sperm then said, fine, you can count on me. His mood suddenly changed to a happy one as he followed Gyoro's advice. The student council and the occult research club in the school suddenly felt some dangerous force headed toward the school. They then went out and began to prepare themselves for the coming threat. All the devils are out except for Asia, Terio, Issei and Kaneko. As they were outside, they saw not one thing but an army of tiny black things marching to the school. Once they fought, they tried slicing it to pieces, but it ended up worse for them since they then began to multiply. As they were busy fighting it, Garou began to stand up and he then began to walk away. Issei said, lay down for a while, for my friend Asia isn't done healing you yet. Garou then looked at him and gave a glare in him, it then sent shivers down Issei's spine as he stopped talking him. Vario called out to Garou, hey mister, please follow what they're trying to say. Garou heard this but still decided to leave. Kaneko missed her chance to thank him again. She then went out of the main door of the OCR to find Garou until she heard someone outside say, it seems your case of emergency just happened. As Black Sperm heard it and suddenly one of him got cut in half, he then said, so you come to show up now, what makes you think you can defeat me? Garou answered, simple, because I am that ominous future. Disaster level god. Black Sperm then got bigger and he then tried to hit Garou while saying, you can't even give up your humanity. Garou just hit him and when Black Sperm multiplied, Garou just strikes them with ease. Garou then says, my body feels light to light. As if my spirit has been removed from it. I feel the disenthrallment. Hey you, little monster. How do I look? Black Sperm suddenly felt terror and he then decided to merge many of his cells and with a blast multi-cell sperm was born. He tried fighting Garou, but all what Garou did was just gave one powerful hit and injured multi-cell sperm heavily. Black Sperm feeling desperate, decided to fuse many of his cells. He thought to himself, in order for me to beat this guy, I must fuse 100,000, no a million, a billion. No, how about a trillion? Black Sperm fused trillions of his cells, and with a blast golden sperm was born. He then started charging at Garou, while Garou just delivered a punch to him and it sent him flying in the air. He then shouted, Garou, ooh, how did you get this strong? You're only human. Bear replied, I used to be human. Everyone who knows Garou noticed his hair starting to look like that of a horns, but facing sideways on top of his head. Black Sperm, who got irritated at what Garou kept saying, shouted, don't get too cocky, you really can't even give up on your humanity. He then grew bigger again and tried to hit Garou with all his might. But as his fist was about to hit Garou, Garou's left arm transformed to that of a monster's arm as he said to him, my human side is dead. He then began to vaporize most of Black Sperm's cells, except for one cell with one strike. Black Sperm, who is already the last piece of himself, decided to hide out. He thought to himself, I'm out of cells, this man is trouble, I'll hide behind this rubble. Golden Sperm came back down and said, your punch is a lot more times powerful than a normal human. Garou, I'm taking you seriously from now on. Ooh. Golden Sperm made this sound as he powered up and once he charged at Garou. It was so fast that everyone cannot see him and Asia, Terio, Issei and Kaneko made it outside the school in time to see their battle. Barry did the same and a huge dust appeared when they charge and as soon as the dust cleared they see some mysterious being and the rest of the occult research club along with Terio knew who it was Garou. Terio called out to him and said, Mister, are you a monster mister? Garou suddenly appeared in front of Terio and said, yes I am and everyone who is trying to kill you all the monsters and even the heroes if they're here will not survive this night. Gyoro, who was busy with controlling the portals, thanks to a little bit of help from some mysterious entity, managed to distract the S-class heroes by teleporting various evil organizations such as the Abandoned Masses, the remaining members of the ninja village, and their ninja leader who managed to wake up when his capsule was broken, an evil organization named Deathbone who managed to free the cruel dragon by collecting the seal stones that sealed it, thanks to some help by the ones controlling the portals. The S-class heroes managed to defend themselves, thanks to their teamwork and a little bit of Satama's help. Psychos, noticing Garou heading his way to her, decided to open a portal in the lair, a certain evil organization that is composed of cyborgs and robots. The portal sucked out the 5 dragon-level threats and some powerful robots, but they didn't stand a chance to Garou. Garou then says, my fist. Garou then started punching the monsters in hyperspeed. My own technique because it is of disaster level god. I shall name it Monster Calamity God Fist. No wait, monster calamity godslayer fist, even something unreliable as god will be crushed by my hand as well. Psychos keep teleporting all sorts of monsters, even dragon level monsters and evil humans, but they either end up killed or beaten up. Barry then came to Gyoro and said, so you're the one who controls the portals, I want to thank you for helping me get this strong, now time to end you. Before Gyoro could finish, he was then obliterated to pieces. Psychos then decided to close all of the portals that are nearby Garou. Barry sensed this happening, and he then decided to go back to Terrio to see if he was okay. A few minutes ago, as Garou was going to leave, he noticed something charging to Terrio, and when he looked at it, he saw multi-cell sperm charging at Terrio, but Garou just instantly kills him. Barry looked at from afar, and he can sense that Gyoro is there, so he left. A few minutes later, Garou came back and looked at Terrio. Kaneko tried to go near to Garou. Despite him unleashing an aura of fear to the others, she said to him, thank you for saving us from the falling debris a while ago. Barry looked at her and said, are you not scared of me? Terrio heard Kaneko thanked Garou. Terrio then tried to muster the courage to thank Garou, as he tried to thank Garou by saying, Mr. Thank you for saving my life a couple of times. Tears began to fall down Terrio's eyes, and he quickly rubbed them. Garou said to Terrio, stop calling me mister, I'm only 18 you know, and will you stop crying, it's annoying. Garou turned his head to Kaneko and he said, listen, I wasn't trying to save you both early on, he was then cut off as he sensed something else. He looked, and it was a shrunken overgrown rover. Barry thought to himself, that was the dog monster from yesterday, what happened to it? Blacksperm seeing this, tried to shrink himself, and he went in front of Garou and said, please spare me, I promise that I will serve you. But Garou said. Everyone are still surprised from the strength of Garou, his strength is like way out of this world, Rias can't even believe how powerful he got in such a short period of time. Garou looked at Terrio and said, do you want a dog, and will you stop crying if I give you one? Garou suddenly remembered the question he wants to ask them. Hey you, redhead. What are you people, are you some sort of espers or heroes or maybe something else, cause when I watch you battle this monster, you seem to keep up with its strength despite it being a dragon level monster. Everyone didn't know what those disaster level means, but maybe it's how he scales the powers of the monsters. If they say that they are heroes, Garou will beat them up. Rias then said, we are actually demons. Garou said, prove it. She then had some wings come off her back and then the rest of them had too, it came off of their back and Garou's reaction was, whoa. He looked surprised, even though that Garou's appearance was more devil-like than them, except for that he had no wings, except for the cloth tied in his neck, it makes it look like he has devil wings. Terrio said to Garou, mister, you look more like a demon, except you have no wings, and they are the ones that have. Terrio laughed a little. Garou said, what did you say to me? The aura of fear of Garou in Terrio's eyes has vanished, for he still sees the same Garou, even though he has become a monster. Everyone soon suddenly felt the aura of fear coming from Garou, suddenly starting to disappear when he was in front of Terrio. Terrio then said, so what disaster level are you, Mr. Terrio asked Garou, for he was curious. Bear replied, stop calling me mister again, cause I'm only 18 and I am a disaster level god. Rias suddenly started to ask a question to Garou. Garou, what are those disaster levels? Garou answered, those disaster levels identify how strong we are. We have 5 disaster levels. First is disaster level wolf, which is a potential threat to someone or a threat to a person. Second is disaster level tiger, which is a threat to a large number of people. Third is disaster level demon, it is a threat to an entire city. Fourth is disaster level dragon, it is a threat to multiple cities. And lastly is disaster level god, which is a threat to the existence of humanity. Everyone felt fear shiver down their spine after hearing this, except for Terrio and Kaneko who have seen Garou's true face, that's why they aren't scared of him anymore. Garou then felt a little hungry and said to them, do you have something I can eat, cause I am starting to feel a little hungry, never mind, I'll just go back to the room where I was resting. Garou then entered the school, and the students who have seen him began to either pass out or ran in fear. Both the clubs then began to clean the city up and erase the memory of the people, it was a long night. Garou sat in the sofa in the OCR in a cross-legged style meditating and Kaneko with Terrio followed him, since Garou just walked slowly towards that room. Rover and Blacksperm soon followed them. Rias allowed Kaneko to accompany Garou since she was tasked to accompany him and also to keep an eye on him while they try to clean everything up and erase everybody's memories. Bear remained silent and when Terrio tried to speak to him, Garou said, not now kid, I need to think for a while. He then went to another location so he could be alone for a while. He then thinks to himself silently while he remained seated in a cross-legged way under the trees till morning came. Later the next day, Issei said I'm still tired from removing all those rotten monster bodies. He and Asia were entered their club room and suddenly they felt something past them, they looked behind them and there was no one and when they looked in front of them, they saw Garou. Issei panicked at first, his sacred gear began to react, and it said to him, this person must be the cause of why those powerful entities died yesterday. I can sense his power. This man is something even us dragons must be aware of, since he is a danger to us. Issei began sweating as he heard this. He looked at Garou and felt stunned just by looking at him, and when he looked at what Garou was looking at, it was the kid from yesterday. He remembered what that kid did. It was courageous of him. Issei's fear then vanished as he thought of this. Garou thought to himself, I thought I was going to have some peace and quiet until that weirdo showed up in the forest with that guy who calls himself Kakabeel. They tried to fight me, but in the end they didn't give me a fight. Garou looked at Issei and said, hey you, the one who looks like a pervert, come over here. Cause I have a question for you. Issei went to Garou and said, what is it? Garou asked, do you know the histories of the angels and demons of this world? Issei said, I'm sorry, for I am still a newly reincarnated demon. You can ask the president of our club, maybe she knows. Issei begins to have sweat in his face while giving an awkward expression. Garou didn't mind him, and he instantly went to the president. She was shocked by how he instantly appeared in front of her. Rias asked Garou, what is it? Garou asked the same question and Rias answered it. She told about the great war between the angels, devils and fallen angels, and that it brought the three races to almost the brink of extinction. Rias can't understand why she feels scared when she's around him. Garou then left, for he instantly remembered the two monsters who were with Terio. He instantly appeared before them and he asked Blacksperm, will there be another attack from the Monster Association? Blacksperm being frightened from his gaze said maybe, cause Gyoro hasn't told me her plans, I was just following orders, I promised. Garou could sense that is telling the truth, so he left him. Garou thought to himself, this may not be my world but based on what I've learned about it, it's kinda similar to my world, except instead of heroes. This world is controlled by those beings, hero or not. They still make me angry cause of their biased justice. I will make all of them fear me and even the humans too. I will be despair incarnate and in a world where survival is unlikely, based on their universal instincts, everyone's hearts will unite and evil will disappear, but first I gotta deal with the Monster Association, since they will be a problem for me. Garou went back to Terio and he sees him eating chips and drinking a cola. Garou said, wait, where did you got that food and drink? Terio said, I've got it from her, she is a kind lady. Terio points at Kaneko and Garou instantly went to her and said, do you have some more food like what you gave to that kid over there? He points at Terio and Kaneko pulled out a box from under the table and inside it was her snacks which she kept for herself, but since Garou saved her, she feels like she has a debt to pay to him. Kaneko doesn't see the monster in front of her, instead she sees him in the form he saved her. Kaneko faces away and her cheeks begins to turn red a little when she remembered the time Garou almost sacrificed himself in saving her and the kid. Somewhere outside school, two students are walking down the street and they see a small puddle of water with eyes. It creeps them out at first, but they instantly adored it, for it doesn't seem dangerous. While it was moving, one of them emptied his water bottle and began to scoop it out of the ground. One of them, the one who wears glasses said, I think we found a new species, and judging by how cute it is, maybe we'll be famous and the girls will be running straight at us. We'll also finally get to beat our friend Issei-kun, now is our time to shine. The other friend said, how about we'll show this to Issei first and tell him about our plans, and I like to see the reactions on his face. They then both laughed as they went to school. Back at school, in the abandoned school building, Issei was called by his friends to meet them and he thought to himself, what could it be? Minutes later, Issei was amazed by this thing his friends found. It kinda reminded Issei of the slimes who he want to take as pets, except these thing has eyes. Suddenly a portal opened underneath both his friends, as his friends just placed a creature inside their water bottle, they got sucked in. Issei said, what the hell just happened? Garou and Kaneko were sitting on the sofa eating her snacks with Terio. Kaneko tried sleeping in Garou's lap, but the feeling of his lap was hard due to his monsterification, so she instantly got up after feeling how uncomfortable it is. Garou didn't care since he is hungry and the box was placed on Terio's lap and since he sat beside him, Garou can reach it. Garou ate all her snacks instantly and it frightened Terio since all the food he wants to eat are gone, while for Kaneko, she is okay with it due to her feeling thankful to him for also saving her friends. Blacksperm and Rover came in front of them and Blacksperm began bowing as he then said, oh please forgive me, I'll do anything for you. But again. Garou was surprised by this and as he was thinking what he wants to do with him, a portal opened behind Blacksperm and overgrown Rover. The portal also tried sucking in them, except Garou pushed Kaneko. He tried to push Terio, but a huge hand managed to grab Terio and it angered Garou, so he went into the portal. The portals on both locations then closed. Everyone was shocked at what happened, but they don't have enough time to look for them, since the leaders of the three factions will be coming to meet up in the Kuo Academy to discuss about the situation that just occurred yesterday. Chapter 4. Somewhere in the dimensional realm made that is a copy of the Kuo Academy, Garou and the others arrived. Garou went through the portal and he sees a monster holding Terio with his hand. The monster said, "Who's this little pipsqueak?" Terio saw Garou and he said, "Mr. Help." Ugly saw Garou and he said, "Oh, so you're Garou, despite you being a monster. Looks like you still haven't gave up on your humanity." He laughed and then his attention turned to Blacksperm and Rover. "Looks like you betrayed the Monster Association, Blacksperm." Blacksperm said, "It's not like that." He was interrupted when he suddenly felt Garou spoke. "Put the child down or else." Ugly replied, "Or else what?" Ugly suddenly felt a hole through his chest and the last thing he saw was his vision going dark. He then said, "How did you?" Ugly was defeated. Suddenly underneath Terio's feet, huge teeth begin to come out of the ground and Garou instantly grabbed Terio and once the monster emerges, Garou just one-punched it and it died. Blacksperm reaction was shocked. He then said he took out 2 monster cadres easily. This man is really dangerous. Garou suddenly heard with his enhanced senses 2 teens screaming somewhere in the building. Terio begged to Garou, "Mister, please save them." Garou said, "Why should I save them? They're not my problem." "Mister, I beg you, please save them," Terio said. "Listen here, I'm not going to save them, don't get the wrong idea, I just coincidentally save you again." Garou stopped as he looked at Terio's face, which is covered with tears. Garou placed Terio down and he said, "Fine, I'm going to save them, but not because I want to, it's because they might tell us where we are, since this world is a world where magic does exist." Before he headed their way, he said to Blacksperm, "Want to be useful, watch the kid for me, cause if you don't, I might just obliterate you instantly." Yes, I'll do as you command," Blacksperm said as sweat begins to drip down his face. Garou said, "Good." He then headed to the direction of the sound. He smashed through the walls until he reached them. He saw one of the monsters who killed him, the bug looking like one. It was strangling the 2 teenagers with its hands. As Garou approached them, Bug God saw him and he said, "I don't recognize you, are you a new recruit of the Monster Associate?" He was then cut off as Garou obliterated him into pieces instantly. "Now that's for trying to kill me last time," Garou said as he was finally relieved. He saw the 2 teens. Garou said to them, "Hey you two, you know where we are?" The 2 looked at him frightened and the bald one said, We don't know where we are, we just got here." "I see," Garou said. Garou then began to go back to Terio and he looked at the 2 teens, "Hey you shitty brats, are you coming with me or not?" The 2 said, "We are coming with you." They said it together out loud with tears and snots coming out of them. When Garou arrived at where Terio and the others were, he finds out that they are missing, even the dead bodies of the monsters are missing. But Garou can sense the direction where they went. He followed what he could sense and when he arrived at the place, he sees a familiar face. Garou thought to himself, he looks kinda familiar, his costume is kinda similar to the phoenix monster that carried me into the sky during my fight with the 2 old geezers and Demon Cyborg. Garou sees that the 2 monsters he killed were alive. He then said, "I guess this must be your doing, who are you?" The monster answered, "You don't remembered me, I am that phoenix monster. If it wasn't for this new powers I got from Psycho's experiments on me, I wouldn't be able to bring back this 2 cadres. They are kinda like in a zombie-like state, but with a few improvements, I'll be able to conquer death and with my new abilities, you'll call me the Monster King." Bear laughed at it and said, "Give up now, you can't beat me." Phoenix Man looked and said, "I know that but based on the information we got from Bug God, he says that you have a soft spot for human kids, so I plan on using him hostage." Bear then said, "I see." Bear then appeared in front of Terio and he obliterated the 2 monster cadres instantly, so Phoenix Man won't resurrect them. Phoenix Man said, "You." Bear laughed again and told Phoenix Man, "I guess you can't bring back the dead if their body is completely destroyed. Cause if you can bring back the dead even when their body is completely destroyed, maybe you might have a chance against me, but I'm stronger than you." Phoenix Man shouted, "I will kill you in the most brutal way and I'll resurrect you as one of my slaves, after that we'll see who's laughing." He charged at Garou, but instead he ended up being killed instantly. As Garou walked over to Terio, Garou felt a surge of energy behind him and when he looked at it, Phoenix Man came back from the dead. "With this power, I can defeat you." Garou said, "Interesting." He then smiled as he charged at Phoenix Man. Phoenix Man died over and over again until he reached the point where half of his monster costume started looking like a monster. Phoenix Man noticed it and he said, "What have you done? Instead of looking like a god, you made me look like a monster. I will kill you over and over again until I'm satisfied." He then tried one final attempt, but instead he got killed again and his costume was wrecked. Garou said, "You keep coming back stronger, but you're still too weak for me." Garou laughed and when he saw Phoenix Man transform again, Garou is surprised by his new transformation. Phoenix Man has become a tiny chick now. Garou heard Phoenix Man begged for his life and Garou said, "I will spare you if you'll show us the way out of here." Phoenix Man agreed and Garou made the 2 teens that have been hiding somewhere nearby. Garou called out them, "You can come out now, it's safe." The 2 teens came out and they were surprised when Garou handed them what seems to be a baby chick. Garou said, "Watch over this chick for he'll lead us to the exit of this place." The two teens were adoring how cute this chick is, while Phoenix Man was being annoyed by it. He said to Garou, "Could you let someone other than them to watch over me?" Garou replied, "Not my problem." Phoenix Man was annoyed by his answer, but he suddenly grew scared when he felt Garou's aura. When they reached an open area where there are no roofs headed to the portal that leads out of this place, they saw someone there and Phoenix Man shouted, "It's Homeless Emperor." Phoenix Man's voice sounded cute and the two high school students were awed by it. Blacksperm said to Garou, "This man is a cadre." Homeless Emperor shouted, "Oh, so you defeated all the cadres, and I guess you defeated Phoenix Man too. Well, that leaves me then, the heaven's only allies with the chosen." While he was about to fire a huge blast at them, Garou just instantly appeared in front of him and knocked him out with one strike from his finger before he could react. The blast then went to one of the nearby buildings and destroyed it. Garou looked at the portal and he noticed that it was kinda closing based on the kinda transparent light color vanishing. Garou then pushed the teens, Terrio and their tiny monster companions into the portal, and once the portal closed, Terrio cried out, "Mr. Nuo." The portal was still shrinking and Garou heard a voice of some being in his heads, "So you decided to stay." Garou shouted, "I can sense that something was watching us the moment we entered this dimension of some sort. That's why I decided to stay in here for a while, so I can defeat you and end it once and for all." The being said, "I admire your courage, but did you know that I control this dimension? I don't need to fight you. Since I am going to make this entire dimension collapse on you, just like what I'm going to do now." Garou suddenly felt earthquakes, and the ground was suddenly shattered, then Garou suddenly fell to the deep, dark and cold void of the abyss. The being said to Garou, "Don't worry, maybe we might meet again and by that time, we will fight each other." Garou shouted, "I'll defeat you." Just you see Garou then disappeared in the darkness. Garou tried to jump from one falling debris to another, hoping to find the being, but it seems that the being disappeared already since Garou cannot sense it watching him anymore. Garou then decides to leave before it closes. On one of the falling debris he then used it to create one powerful jump upwards and Garou kept on maintaining the force that's pushing him upwards to the portal. When he finally have reached the location where the portal is, Garou then noticed that it's getting smaller and if it shrinks a bit, he might not fit in it. Garou's arm then reached inside the portal and he then used it to grab onto what seemed to feel like the floor and when he then pulls himself inside the portal. The first thing he saw was a bright light and when he entered the portal, he sees something which he never expected. Terrio and the others were in front of Garou and they were glad that he came before the portal closed. Terrio was crying and he said to Garou, "I thought you were gone." Garou said, "Will you stop crying and by the way, where are we?" The one with glasses said, "It appears that we are in an island, we haven't seen anyone when we arrived here like hours ago." Garou said, "Wait, hours?" The bald student said, "Yes, you have been missing for hours, we didn't want to check for we don't want to get stuck, please forgive us." As the students were thinking about what Garou was going to do with them, Garou looked at Phoenix Man and said, "Hey little chick, I've got a question for you." "What is it?" Phoenix Man replied with a tiny voice and sweat dripping on his face. "How long were we gone in this world?" Phoenix Man answered with his cute but scared voice, Based on what I think, is that if you stay in that dimension. Minutes are like weeks in this world, and the hours are like months in this world, but it can also be that we were just gone for a couple of days only. I'm still new at this dimension stuff, so I don't know how long we've been there. As Phoenix Man was sweating for he's scared that the students watching him might try to kill him. Garou said, "If it wasn't for my speed, I would be gone for days or maybe even forever, since the portal was beginning to close." Garou laughed while everyone were shocked hearing this information. Garou then asked another question, "Where did the portal brought us to?" Phoenix Man answered, Actually the portal just brings you to some random location in this world." One of the students cried out, "Oh no, I'm gonna miss the school break and all the festivities with girls in it." The other student said, "I'm gonna miss all the girls in school and their boobs." They both cried and Garou said, "Will you stop crying, there seems to be a boat passing by." The two students look and they both said, "Yay, we're saved." But their hope only faded away when Garou said, "But I think that they haven't noticed us since can sense them leaving." They both cried again and Garou annoyed by it and shouted at them, "You idiots, don't expect someone to come save you, cause no one's gonna give a damn, in times like this. You gotta get strong." The two students were then inspired by Garou and they thought to themselves, "He's not actually an evil monster, he is actually a nice one." Garou then ordered them to get as many wood they can get, cause they will make a big fire. Once they did it, Garou senses a boat nearby and he then ran through the water and he made it to the ship. He then made all the passengers evacuate to their lifeboat by scaring them. When there were nobody left, Garou pushed the boat to the island the others were at. Garou said, "Oi, oi. Get in here now and let's leave this place already." As they went to the boat, Garou then pushed it to the water and then went in the boat. He said to everyone, "Whoever knows how to ride a boat, raise your hand." No one raised their hand, except the one with glasses. He said, "I've watched people in movies ride a boat and I think I can do it." Well, he said it out loud with courage. Garou said, I think I'll do it myself, since I got a better idea. Garou didn't trust the student base on how the student acts, so Garou decided to go in the water and to push the boat until it reaches the nearest land. As Garou instantly went to the water and began pushing the boat with his strength and speed, Garou uses his speed for keeping him from sinking to the ocean and delivering enough force to push it in the nearest land he could sense, and while he also uses his strength for pushing the boat. As Garou was pushing the boat, the ones in the boat all said, whoa, as some of them got pushed backwards and rolled in the ship. While Garou was trying to control how much force is putting, for he didn't want to throw them out of the ship. Once they reached land, they were happy, for they have now reached the southern part of Japan. The one with glasses said, I guess we must have came from one of the southern islands of Japan, for we are in Nagasaki. His friend said, hey Motohama, that's a bit far away from where we live. His friend then said, but Mitsuda, at least we're in Japan. Yeah, right we are, I am so excited that I am gonna see those girls' panties again. Garou became annoyed to their personalities as perverts, but it's Garou's first time hearing their name, since he didn't ask them. Garou said, so your names are Motohama and Mitsuda, well my name is Garou the monster. The others then began to speak. I'm Terio. I'm Phoenix Man and his black sperm and his rover. Garou then said, enough already, this is not some get-together party, now all of you hop on my back and tell me which way is Kuo Academy. Get on my back and I will carry you until there. What they said. Garou then said, come on, maybe you have a better plan. As they were going to give their ideas, they still ended up doing Garou's plan in the end. It took a couple of days for them to reach Kuo town, since they had to get some map for they got lost a little. They even committed dine and dash on the way, since they were hungry. Other reasons was them vomiting due to the speed of Garou, and also their other reasons was because they also took a couple of hours sleep on the outside. Except for Garou, since he didn't need to do those things except for eating some foods and drinking some sodas faster than a blink of an eye. He does those before he saves Terio and the other two from getting caught by the guards in the fast food restaurants and grocery stores. Little did they know, they are living a little bit like Garou's life before he became a monster, and it impressed Garou, since they reminded him of some of the things he did back in his world, except for the perverted stuffs they do, which annoyed Garou, and it made him scared them by just feeling his ominous aura, and that was enough to make them stop. Then Garou laughs based on their expressions. Many things has happened. As they were in Kuo town, he then said to Motohama, hey, you. Glasses, what direction is Kuo Academy? Motohama then told Garou where it was located at, but before they went there, Motohama said, wait, could you bring us to our friend's house, because we have been missing for a long time and our parents might get mad at us. Garou then gave a terrifying glare at him and it made Motohama almost faint from a heart attack, seeing Garou. Garou then said, well, fine you owe me, I'm not some babysitter you know. Motohama said, understood. Sweat began trickling down his face when he answered Garou. He led Garou to where Issei's house is and when they arrived, they see a huge building and Issei's friends said together, what happened? They then tried knocking at the door, for they are desperate and seeing Issei there was no answer, they tried calling Issei, but no one answered. So they then asked for Garou's help in breaking in through the door. Garou broke the doorknob when he opened the door, it was quiet when he did it, and when they entered, they tried checking some of the rooms downstairs to see if Issei was there and before they went upstairs, Garou said in a quiet voice, I guess we could sleep here tonight too. And when they went upstairs, by chance they found the room where Issei sleeps. As Garou and the others stayed behind them and they then sneaked into Issei's room while trying to not wake up his parents. But while they were opening the door, Issei woke up and heard the door opening. Issei was wondering who could it be at this time. Issei came in and he saw his friends, then after staring at them for a while, he then stood up from the bodies of Akeno, Rias and Asia, and that woke up everyone in the room. Issei then rushed forward at them until he was both punched by them and Mitsuda said, how can you get this lucky Issei? Motohama then said, yeah, you are doing it with them on this bed and when did your parents get so rich? And Issei said, I missed you guys, I tried looking for you everywhere and where did you guys came from and who saved you? They then pointed behind them, it was kinda dark, so Issei switched on the lights. Akeno said, who is it? After all the girls were finished rubbing their eyes, they saw Garou and they were surprised by him and Issei said, who saved you? The two pointed at Garou and it shocked them. Akeno said, we tried to search you through spells, but we couldn't find all of you. Garou then said, well we were just abducted by the Monster Association. Akeno and Rias were surprised by this and they said, if so, then we really need to report this to Azazel. Rias then agreed, while Issei, Mitsuda, Motohama and Asia were still clueless about this association. Issei asked Garou, but since Garou was not in the mood to answer, due to the way they sleep together, it disgusts Garou that he does not want to think about it and he said, is there any room where we can sleep in? They then told about the room where Kaneko sleeps, and as Garou and Terio were about to go there, they saw Kaneko entering the room and she said, "What were the noises going on in this room?" She then notices Garou and Akeno said to her, "Can Garou and the kids sleep in your room, since they have no other place to sleep in for now?" Kaneko then said, "Okay." As she turned her back away from them, she kinda blush a little and said, "Garou, I'll lead you to my room." Garou then answered, "I don't mind sleeping in the floor since I'm not human, I can try not sleeping at all." They then began to leave Issei's room, but before Garou left, he ordered Blacksperm and Phoenix Man to tell them everything they know about the Monster Association. Them seeing Phoenix Man for the first time made everyone adore him due to his cuteness, except for Mitsuda and Motohama, who knew what Phoenix Man is capable of. Phoenix Man tried running away when the girls were trying to hug him due to it being so tight. Mitsuda and Motohama's nose begins to bleed when they were watching the girls that are still naked hugging Phoenix Man. They said to themselves in their minds, "I wish I were that little chick." The girls noticed them and begin beating them up, and Akeno and Rias began beating them up. Asia hid her body under the blanket. After a while, they grew silent after being beaten by them. Somewhere unknown, Psychos learned everything what happened from homeless Emperor whom she saved, and she said to herself, "Actually, I never planned to bring Garou to this dimension, I only planned to teleport the cadres in that world back to us, but it just so happened that I sensed Garou and the others, then I began to try taking advantage of it, since knowing that Garou has a weak spot for humans." Homeless Emperor said, "But what's your plan now?" Psychos then said, "I teleported the heroes back to their world so they could warn the other heroes about Garou, and when they are prepared in defeating Garou, I'll begin to teleport them to him, and the rest we leave it to him." Homeless Emperor then said, "You mean God?" As we see an image of God in a fetal position somewhere in an unknown dimension where it seemed like it's in space, since there are stars all around him. Chapter 5. As Kaneko was laying in bed, Garou sat in the corner quietly with his eyes closed while sitting down in cross-legged way. Garou ponders on how he is going to defeat this mysterious being until he hears Kaneko suddenly says something to him, "Garou, so where did you went when you went into the portal to save Terio?" Garou suddenly replied, "Okay, I'll answer your question when you answer mine first. How did you know my name?" Kaneko answered, "Rias told me." Garou said, "Is Rias the redhead prostitute that I saw a while ago?" "Yes, but that's rude for you to call Prez like that. Says Kaneko. "Prez, oh, I forgot. She told me that she was the president of your club. She is a bad example of a leader, for she acts more like the leader of the prostitutes if you ask me, based on what I saw a while ago. What does she do? Entertain perverts like that guy?" Garou laughs as he says these things. Kaneko says, "That's very rude for you to say things about a Garou. Garou says, "But it's true." Kaneko then replies to Garou, "Prez is actually not a bad person." Garou replied, "Why is that?" "Well, it's because she was the one who actually took care of me, she made me a part of her family when I was little." Kaneko says this to Garou with a little bit of shyness showing in her face. Garou then replies to what she said as he looks in her face, "Oh, I see, well forgive me for the things I said about her." Kaneko then asks Garou, "About your question Garou, where did you went when you went into the portal?" Garou answers, "Nah, we just went into some sort of dimension that kinda resembles your school." Kaneko then asks, "Was it the monsters that did this?" "Well yes, but they have some sort of being who is helping them, I guess that he must be the reason why I and that shitty brat was teleported to your world." Kaneko then asks again, "Who was this being?" "I think he must be some type of mysterious being who could control dimensions, since he collapsed that entire dimension and almost made me stuck in there forever. Luckily I escaped, and after that I and the others ended up on an isolated island." Before you asks questions again, can you answer mine first? Kaneko agreed and Garou began asking questions the whole night, and Kaneko didn't entire night for they had a lot of questions and answers. The next day, Terio, all curled up and covered in the blanket, began to wake up and he said, "Mister, I have a strange dream, but this one is about you getting married to a girl that has the same color with your hair when you were human." Bear replied, "You must still be tired Terio, why don't you go to sleep?" Kaneko came back from the bathroom all changed and she then began to eat breakfast with the others downstairs. Terio's stomach then growled and Garou notices this and he thought of an idea. He went into Issei's room and got the two pervert friends of Issei and then he began to tell them to do something. During breakfast, the two friends came downstairs with Terio and Motohama said, "Sorry for not informing you that we slept with Issei for the night." But Suda said, "It's because we had a school project." The dad of Issei said, "It's okay, the carpenters that were building our house into this forgot to fix the door handle, and that's how you managed to get in, and Issei luckily saw you too and invited you to sleep in our new house." The mom of Issei said, "Well I guess that makes you our first guest in our brand new house." Issei thought to himself, "Wow, they are so gullible." Motohama then said as he can feel the eyes of Garou watching him somewhere, Can my little cousin eat breakfast with you too? He hasn't eaten dinner yesterday when we brought him here with us." Sweat began dripping in his forehead as the parents of Issei answered. Sure, let him eat here. Issei's dad said. I'm so excited to cook in this new house, I'm gonna cook lots of food for us today. Issei then sighed and they began eating. While Issei and the girls were going to school, they felt a strong wind passing them by and they also heard "Hey, meet you there," slow pokes. They knew that it was Garou. While behind them they can hear the breathing of Mitsuda and Motohama. Mitsuda said, "Why do we have to bring these monsters with us to school?" Motohama answered, "Do you remember that we are doing this cause we owe him?" Mitsuda said, "But I never signed up to be the ones taking of these things." Black sperm then said inside the bag of Mitsuda, "How rude of you to say that word to us." Mitsuda shouted at him, "I'm going to throw them away to the garbage can." Motohama then said, "Stop, remember what he said he'll do to us if we won't follow him." Mitsuda remembered and he suddenly felt a shiver to his spine when he thought of it. Mitsuda then became silent and started running faster, as did Motohama. Issei and the others who were listening to their conversation were surprised how fast they became when they were talking about the thing that Garou said to them. When everyone arrived in the OCR, they see Garou with Terio, who is kinda dizzy after being brought there by Garou. Meanwhile in school after class, summer vacation has come and everyone were happy except for Mitsuda and Motohama, who are given lots of homework which they need to try and finish it all, so that they could catch up with the lessons they missed the past few days. Garou was eavesdropping to everyone's conversation until he heard that they were all going to hell. Garou then thought to himself, interceding. Garou saw someone pass through the main door and sat down on the chair. He thinks to himself again, who is this guy? Everyone were shocked except for Garou, since they didn't notice him enter the room. Garou said to them, "So all of you didn't notice him enter the room a while ago?" Azazel laughed and said, "Hi, I'm Azazel, the advisor of the Occult Research Club and the governor of the Fallen Angels. It's a pleasure to meet you. I hear that you were the one who beat all those monsters from the other world and you are also the one who defeated Kakabiel and the stray exorcist freed Selzen." Everyone was shocked hearing this, for he wasn't someone easy to defeat. Bear replied, "So you're a fallen angel?" Azazel said, "Well yes I am." Black feathery wings begin to pop out of his back. Bear said, "Oh, I remember now. So the ones I fought a couple of days ago in the forest was them?" Azazel said, "Yes it was them. During the crisis that happened a few days ago, Kakabiel was planning to take that chance to start a war and if it wasn't for them, he could have started another war between the demons, fallen angels and angels already." Bear said, "I hear that they are going to hell this summer." Azazel answered, "Yes they are, I'm also coming with them." Bear suddenly heard two familiar voices behind him, "Please take us with you. I don't want to be kidnapped by the monsters again." Issei sounded surprised when he said, "Mitsuda and Motohama." Bear said, "How is that my problem?" Motohama said, "Phoenix Man said that since they know that we are connected to you, they will kidnap us and they are going to torture us." Mitsuda cried and said, "I don't want to get tortured, I don't even have a girlfriend yet." Barry then thinks about it and he said, "Well it's not my decision since I'm not the one in charge of this trip, why don't you ask your other perverted friend?" Issei became shy when he heard that, while the others laugh a little since it was true. Issei looked at his friends and he felt pity on them, so he then started begging Rias to make them come with him, since due to their situation, it would be safe for his friends to come with him, since he could protect them if they're with him. Rias sighed and she said to Issei, "Okay." Barry then said, "Since you'll go, don't forget what you owe me." Motohama and Mitsuda looked at each other and they said, "Yes we won't master." Barry said, "Good, now beggin'." Motohama and Mitsuda then left. Issei thought to himself, he acts more like a devil than us. The next day, while they were on the vehicle that is heading to the underworld, Issei's friends were amazed by this and Mitsuda said, "This is the best summer break ever." Motohama also said, "Yeah right it is." Mitsuda said to his friends, "Since demons are not that bad, based on what we learned from you Issei, maybe I could get a girlfriend here, I like to see the look Kiryuika's face when I will show her my girlfriend. Issei said, "Well actually, I'm not sure about that." Mitsuda then said to Issei, "What did you say Issei?" While the trio were arguing, Garou notices the look on Kaneko's face. Asper notices it too and he said to Kaneko, "Hey Kaneko-chan, are you not going to eat your lunch Kaneko-chan?" Kaneko replied, "Don't mind me. It's nothing." Suddenly Garou heard a voice in the train say, "We are now arriving at Citri." Then suddenly two girls with glasses with a boy companion entered the room and spoke with the redhead and the others and then they left. After a while, the voice in the train said, "We are now arriving in the Gremory estate." Garou was eavesdropping on their conversations and he said in his mind, "So this is where the redhead lives and its eyes reminds me of my world." Suddenly the train stopped and the others stumbled due to its force, except for Garou who can maintain his balance. The voice in the train said, "We've been signaled to make an emergency stop." Garou's senses can suddenly detect something outside the train. Something is waiting outside the train, I wonder what it is. As Kaneko suddenly sensed something too and she said to herself, "Outside." Suddenly the train vanished and they all fell into. Garou grabbed Terio and the other two who are hugging Blacksperm, Rover and Phoenix Man tightly. Blacksperm said, you're hugging too tight. Phoenix Man said, you're strangling me, I can't breath. How they fell reminded Garou of when the time he fell through a similar place like this. Issei and the others then woke up in the ground, while Terio and the other two who were already standing were still trying to process what just happened. They then encountered a dragon, and suddenly Garou noticed Kaneko charging straight at it, and when she tried to punch it, it knocked her back with its tail. Blood began to drip from her head, and as she was going to fall, Garou caught her on his arms. Garou thought to himself, why am I doing this again? Her forehead is bleeding, Garou said in his mind. Kaneko opened her eyes, she sees him and said, Garou. Garou said, what are you doing, just charging by yourself, you know, you could have gotten yourself killed. Garou says this because he also did the same thing against Rover. Kaneko gets a glimpse of Garou's true face, and she remembered the time when he saved her from the falling debris. Asper shouted, Kaneko-chan, for he became worried after she got hit by the dragon. Kaneko then turns her head towards the dragon, and Garou said as he put her down in the ground gently, you're still conscious after that blow, rest down here while I deal with this. Garou then instantly charges at dragon, then suddenly the dragon heard someone shout the word sit above it, and then it felt a powerful punch strike its head, and it began crashing down in the ground. Issei and the rest were surprised by what just occurred, and Garou said to himself, in my current condition, this dragon is nothing to me already. Garou then shouted, when are you going to show yourselves, I can sense you watching since a while ago. Rias and Azazel appeared, as Azazel said, well this was something unexpected, so the rumors about you were true. Azazel laughs and Rias apologizes to her club members, while Asia heals Kaneko. As Issei saw them, he then says, Prez and Azazel. They then explained to Issei that this dragon is a devil. The dragon stood up while holding the part of its head that hurts. Garou thought to himself, so this dragon could stand up after that punch, it's the same punch I used on that dog monster, I'm guessing it might be a little bit stronger, judging by how it acts, it also seems to be intelligent, I can't wait to play with it. The dragon then spoke, it has been a while Dreg. The sacred gear of Issei suddenly spoke too, yeah it brings back memories Tannen. Issei then says to his sacred gear, wait you know him. Azazel then says to them who Tannen is, Blaze Meteor Dragon, also known as the Devil Dragon Saint Tannen, he was the Dragon King of yore. In exchange for something, he reincarnated as a devil. As everyone were talking about the dragon, Azazel said he's here to help you with your lessons. As Garou was again eavesdropping on their conversation, he said to himself, so even two-legged lizards can be demons too. Tannen pretended not to hear it, for he knew that this monster is dangerous. Azazel said, yes Garou, any being can be reincarnated as a devil. Tannen then said to the rest of the OCR club and Azazel, I came here especially from Serzich's Dono's request. Don't you forget that Lord of the Fallen Angels. Rias then says to her club, are you all okay? I'm sorry I kept you all in the dark. I was against this, but my brother insisted. Rias said. Azazel then said to Rias, Ipo were the one troubled by their lack of growth, Rias. Your kindness and indecisiveness will be a problem. Azazel said. Rias then asks, what do you mean indecisiveness? Azazel then said, I wanted to see for myself just how well they could handle a surprise attack. If it wasn't for Garou interfering, they wouldn't have handled it based on what I saw, and with that the training regiment is now set. Akeno then says, only a fallen angel would come up with such a plan. Azazel then says, I'll do whatever it takes to make you all stronger. I am your teacher after all. Issei then said to his sacred gear, hey Dreg, why didn't you tell me you knew each other? His sacred gear then spoke, there was no need for me to say anything, since it was all a farce. Issei replied, a farce. His sacred gear answered, he didn't even use 1,000th of his power. Rias then says to everyone, anyways I can't bring anyone home looking ragged. After a while, everyone were bathing. The men were bathing down in the outdoor of the lower floor of a building while the girls were bathing in the upper floor of the building, while Garou's companions bathed with Issei and the others. Except for Garou who decided to meditate outside during the night instead, because it's so peaceful there. But Garou can still hear what's going on there, it interrupted him in his meditation cause he was annoyed by the whining of their vampire friend, and Garou said to himself, I'm gonna go check out what's happening there. As Garou checks it out, he saw them forcing one of their girl companions to go bath with them, that's what Garou taught, and when he went there and said to them, oi oi, what's going on there? Issei said to Garou, oh it's nothing, we're just getting of our fellow companions to bath with us. Garou said, but why are you forcing one of your girl companions to bath with you, does your female club members have a separate place for them to bath? Issei said, well Garou, actually Gasper is a boy. Garou replied with a surprised tone, wait, what? So he's gay. If only one could see Garou's facial expression when he was human, they would have laughed at it. But due to his monster form, his face looks more horrifying to look at. Issei answered, no, he just wants to cross-dress. Garou answered, yeah, that's still gay. Issei said, never mind. The two friends of Issei were heartbroken by it when they heard Issei tell the truth, while Terio, Black Sperm and Phoenix Man were surprised by this big reveal to them, and it also left them open-mouthed. Garou then stood there and he was thinking if he will take a bath also, but when he heard Azazel and Issei talking about perverted things, Garou thought to himself, nah, I guess I changed my mind, I guess I'm not taking a bath today. The next day. Everyone were surprised by the house of their president, while for Garou, it was nothing special. When they entered it, all the maids and servants could sense the terrifying presence of Garou, but they are trying to keep it to themselves, for they don't want to cause any problems. Garou met the family members of the redhead, and when he saw the mother of the redhead, he first thought that she must be her sister, judging by the similar appearance. When Rias revealed to Issei that she is actually her mother, Garou was a bit surprised, and he said to himself, it must be because they are not human, that's why they don't age. Ria's mother then looks at Garou and said, so the rumors are true, that the monster who almost started a war between the three factions would actually be coming here with them. Garou said to himself, almost started a war. Ria's mother then said, well luckily, you're not our enemy. Garou then said, but don't mistake me for your ally also, I'm on nobody's side, you got that. Ria's hearing how Garou spoke to her, replied to Garou, don't speak so rudely to my mother like that. Garou then said, why shouldn't I? Rias suddenly began shivering when she felt a glimpse of aura coming from Garou. It stopped when the mother of Rias said, well enough of that, let's go now to dinner. Garou's aura vanished when he heard dinner. When they were at the dinner table, Garou said, why are there many eyes watching me? Ria's father then said, our servants are observing to see if you're a threat or not, since Auden will be coming soon and we don't want any trouble. Garou then turned his attention to the food and he said to himself, this kinda reminded me of the restaurant where I committed a dine and dash in. Well I did Akusamasu. Garou then began devouring the food in his plate instantly and he said, could you bring me more and could you also bring a jar full of water? Rias was again embarrassed by how Garou speaks to her parents, but Ria's father agreed to it and then he ordered his servants to get more food for Garou and a jar filled with water. When the servants brought more food to Garou and a jar filled with water, Garou then stabbed the steak with his fork and then began eating in super speed. After he ate all those food, he then drank the entire jar of water until there was nothing left. It shocked everyone how hungry and thirsty Garou was and Garou said to them, it's been a while since I last ate. Everyone were shocked at how fast he finished his food and water. Issei then asks Garou, can you transform back to a human? Garou said, why should I transform back to my human form? Issei then said, cause, you've been in that form for days and I only saw your human form once. Garou then said, I don't like to go back being a human, cause I'm a monster now. Issei then said, you know what, never mind. Issei and Garou began to notice that something is wrong with Kaneko. Ria's father then suddenly talked to Issei. But Garou, he can sense that something is bothering Kaneko, judging by how she acts ever since she fought that dragon. Garou thought to himself, well it's not my problem, why should I be bothered by it? After dinner, Azazel approached Garou and said, hey Garou, how are you? Garou said, what is it now? Azazel replied, could you please be the one to train Kaneko? Garou said, why should I? Azazel answered, cause, you're the only who I know that has knowledge on hand-to-hand combat and based on how you defeated Tannen yesterday, maybe you could help Kaneko release the power she's been keeping sealed for so long. Garou then said to Azazel, well, I'll just think about it first. Azazel then said, okay, we'll see you tomorrow morning. Garou became annoyed, why am I teaching instead of dealing with the Monster Association and the Hero Association? The next day. As everyone were given instructors to train them while the others were given instructions on how to train themselves, Garou and Kaneko are standing outside facing each other. Garou then said, I will start training you starting today, you got that? Chapter 6. Somewhere outside, Azazel speaks to the two friends of Issei, hi, I'm Azazel, and I notice that you seem close to Garou. Motohama then said, we are taking care of this tiny monster since we owe him, for he was the one who saved us from the monsters. But Sudata said, yeah, he is the reason why we're still alive. Motohama then interrupted as he said, did you feed the dog and the chick? Bitsuda answered, I only fed this tiny black monster. Motohama then said, you need to feed them too, after all it's my turn to take a break. Bitsuda then said, how's it your break, we didn't even made our schedule yet. They then begin to fight and Azazel ignored them for he can sense that these creatures have a hidden power. He went to Blacksperm and asked him, who are you? Blacksperm suddenly sweating for he can sense this man's strength and he answered, I'm just a monster who Garou turned into his slave, just like the others. Azazel then asked, how? Blacksperm answered, well by defeating us, that's how he turned us into his slaves. Azazel then said, so you're the one who can make multiple clones of yourself, I heard it from one of the students that fought you. Blacksperm then looked nervous and Phoenix Man came and said something to Azazel. We were once powerful monsters but until he defeated us, we became like this, how about let's make a deal and I'll share with you the secrets of how Garou became that powerful. Azazel then said, "And what's the exchange you know? I don't want to get involved in your problems." Phoenix Man then said, "The exchange for the information I'm going to share with you is that I want you to help us become strong again." Azazel then thinks about it. Meanwhile during Garou's training on Kaneko, Garou thought to himself teaching her how to do tank top tackle was too easy for her, while she also doesn't seem interested in learning Watchdog Man's technique since it reminds her of something. So I tried to teach her the water-flowing smashing rock fist techniques and surprisingly she could keep up with its techniques when I was teaching her. It must be because she is already experienced in hand-to-hand combat and on top of that, she is also not human, which makes her stronger. So I decided that I'll also teach her Iron Whirlwind Cutting Fist too and also the abandonment technique of the water-flowing smashing rock fist too, since I guess she could learn them easily in a matter of time. I also decided to create a schedule for her, Iron Whirlwind Cutting Fist at the morning and water-flowing smashing rock fist, including the abandonment technique of it in the afternoon and at night, I will teach her how to combine the two martial arts that I'm teaching her. I've used the technique once on Darkshine, and I want to teach her that since she might be facing opponents as strong as that two-legged lizard the other day or maybe even stronger ones. So Kaneko's entire training was suicidal, for every day, she forced herself to her limit, even Azazel is concerned for Garou as allowing her to overwork herself, but since it was her decision, Azazel just allowed and left them to their training. One day, Azazel said, "You're making her overwork herself." Garou answered, "It's her decision to continue training and she can handle it since I taught her how to do the breathing technique." Azazel said, "Breathing technique?" Garou answered, "It's a breathing technique that removes every mental restriction on your mind and it makes you use the full power of your body." Garou thought to himself, even with the breathing technique, she is still having a hard time trying to combine the two martial arts together, there might be something wrong with her, judging by how she acts, she might still be thinking of something and it's making her lose focus, she hasn't yet improved in doing the breathing technique yet. Now back to reality, Azazel said, "Interesting, when I watched her train, her fighting skills have increased dramatically, but I can't see her using the hidden power which she has been sealing away for too long." Garou asked, "What do you mean?" Azazel answered, "You see Garou, she is actually trying to face her own power and existence. A long time ago, there were two Nekomata sisters." Garou asked, "What's a Nekomata?" Azazel answered, "Nekomata are like Japanese cat spirits. After losing their parents and home, the two were always together. They depended on one another and lived as best as they could. One day, both cats were picked up by a devil. Eventually the sister became part of that devil's family and she was able to live a good life. But after turning into a devil, her hidden power began to overflow, unable to control her powers, she killed her master and disappeared. She became a dangerous stray that decimated an entire pursuit force. Worried she would go berserk like her sister, the devils tried to dispose of the younger one. But Surzich's Lucifer took her in, under the condition of watching over her. He then passed her to Rias, so she could learn laughter and the meaning of life from her, and so she gave that girl a name and began taking care of her. Garou thought to himself, so I guess, now I know what's bothering her. Garou then left Azazel, who reacted, Garou left without waiting for me to finish what I was going to say, never mind, I'll just go back to my work. Garou went to Kaneko and said to her, stop your training first. Kaneko stopped and then looked at Garou. Kaneko said, what is it? Garou said, Azazel told me about you, and now I see why you're struggling in your training. Kaneko replied, I'm sorry for worrying you Garou-senpai. Garou was surprised for no one called him that way, then Garou said, I came here to give you some advice and it's about gaining people's respect. Kaneko was surprised at what Garou said to her and she looked at Garou while waiting for his advice. Garou said, if you don't want to be like your sister, then you gotta get stronger than her. Garou said it in a calm way unlike how he say things to the others and Kaneko said, but it's impossible. Garou then answered, don't think it's impossible, cause when the time comes and you're all alone and no one could protect you anymore. In times like that, you need to get strong for. Kaneko then began to think of what he said. But Garou then shouted, now get back to your training, Kaneko. It's the first time she heard Garou call her by her name, unlike the first time they met. She then began training immediately, as she was inspired by Garou's words. She began doing the abandonment technique, as she began breathing and cat-like ears begin to pop out of her head, and she tried to use water-flowing smashing rock fist on the left hand, while on the right hand is the iron whirlwind cutting fist technique. She then began striking the pieces of log which Garou stabbed into the ground. This combination of this different techniques used up a huge amount of her energy, even though she's not human. She then fell back to the ground for she pass out after she used up all her energy. Garou smiled and said, that's the spirit. As he carried her and brought her to her room. Flashback to the first day of training, somewhere outside. Garou said to Kaneko, first I'll be teaching you the tank top tackle, it's kinda like this. Kaneko wonders why it's called tank top tackle. Garou punched the ground and he then began to use the form tank top used on him. Kaneko was surprised by his strength and when it's her turn to do it. She easily smashes the ground also and she did the same form Garou used. Garou said, you're already strong and it's too simple to learn especially for someone like you, so I'll tech you this techniques which some of them are the first techniques I've learned. Garou then showed the water-flowing smashing rock fist stance. Kaneko was amazed by its fluidity and its movements are graceful, but they deliver powerful blows. He then said this technique is called the water-flowing smashing rock fist. Kaneko then realized why it was called that due to its way of attacking. When it's her turn, she had some mistakes at first, but due to her experiences in hand-to-hand combat, she manages to keep up with it and she doesn't get tired easily. Garou then showed her the iron whirlwind cutting fist and she was surprised by this technique for it's like the deadly version of the dress breaker Issei use. Garou told its name and Kaneko noticed what he uses to cut things with it, judging by its name, and it looked more like the offensive version of the other technique to her, since it's not as graceful as the water-flowing smashing rock fist. She struggled in creating enough force to use the wind to cut something at first, but after a few days, she manages to cut something with it, but not on a bigger scale like Garou yet. Garou said in his mind, in just a few days, impressive, it must be because she's not human. Garou showed her the watchdog man technique, but she kinda doesn't want to learn it, since it reminds her of something. Well, when Garou showed her the abandonment breathing technique, it looked simple at first to her, but when Garou told her, this breathing technique will remove your mental restrictions and it will let you ignore your instincts and with those, your senses will be heightened and you'll use the full power of your body. Kaneko did the breathing technique and after doing it, her worry seems to disappear and her fighting performance seems to improve. So when Garou showed her the combination of the two techniques and he wanted her to try it out at first, it took a huge amount of her energy and Garou said, use the breathing technique so you won't get tired easily. She tried to use it, but the thought of her sister entered her mind and it made her unable to concentrate on doing the breathing technique correctly. Kaneko then said in her mind, no, not now. Kaneko then fell to the ground for she became instantly tired. Garou notices this and he thinks to himself, there might be something distracting her, that's why she can't concentrate. Back to reality, Garou was impressed by her improvement and he said, you just need to keep training and maybe in the future, you're going to become strong. Garou then remembers the old fart and he said, is this what the old fart felt when he was teaching his disciples? Damn, why am I thinking of him all of a sudden? What am I thinking of? I am a monster, I shouldn't be acting like this, that's right, I am a monster. Kaneko was still a bit awake and she heard Garou saying all this out loud in front of her and she noticed that even he has some problems too. Later on, as Garou was sneaking in the hallways of the mansion quietly and he checks on Blacksperm and Phoenix Man and he can hear them trying to plot something on him and Garou now knows that they are trying to get back to being strong again. He chose to leave them be since he wants to wait for them to become stronger, maybe stronger, just so he could test how strong he is and it's impossible for them to reach his level, even if they did, it will push Garou to become stronger. Garou then gave an evil smirk as he left them. When everyone has finished their training already, Issei came back from his training and he was so glad that he can finally see Prez already president, it's already been a long time. I've wanted to see you so badly president, I thought of your warmth as I slept every night, wrapped up in a leaf. Issei cried, then began hugging the president. Rias then said, oh Issei. You've gotten so strong. It seems his endurance has increased dramatically. But he wasn't able to pull out his balance breaker. Yes. I'm sorry. Issei said. Azazel then replied, as I thought, you need some drastic catalyst for it. Drastic catalyst, Issei said. They then heard the door opened and they heard Akeno say, I have returned. Rias then asked, how's Kaneko? Akeno then answered, she's resting now. Issei then said, I heard she fainted while training. Just what happened to Kaneko? Azazel then answered, she added a huge amount of her strength in her training with Garou and she completely overworked herself. Everyone in the room wondered how Garou trained her, Issei, and the others can't imagine what hell she's been through during her training. Asper then said while feeling sad for her, Kaneko-chan. Issei then said, how could you allow such a man to train her? Azazel answered, I chose him because from what I observed from him, he seems to be skilled in hand-to-hand combat than anyone I know of and I thought maybe he could help her become stronger. Azazel then stood up from his chair and said, tonight, representatives of various clans will gather for a reception. I have to head there first. I'll have some for you, so be prepared. Azazel said as he left the room. Asia then said, we're going to attend such an amazing event, too. Rias then answered, not only us. Well, brother has us attending as guards for a VIP, it's for deepening the relationship among the young devil leaders. As Kiba then also said, as devils under the president, we can't do anything embarrassing. When they all left the room, Issei then said to himself, young devils, huh. I bet their servants are even strong. Suddenly a flashback of him fighting the white dragon came into his mind. Issei then snaps back to reality and said, "No, I can't let myself be depressed, I have to surpass that guy." Issei then came across Kaneko's room and he said, "Isn't this Kaneko's room?" Issei then knocked on the door and he then decided to enter the room to check on Kaneko. Issei then called, "Kaneko-chan. Are you sleeping?" Issei then came closer to Kaneko's bed and said, "I shouldn't wake her. Just a glance and I'll try again later." Issei then noticed something and Rias suddenly entered the room and said, "Come to think of it, I haven't told you." Rias then began to inform Issei about what Kaneko is, just like what Azazel said about her. After Rias revealed Issei what Kaneko is, Issei then asked, then that little sister?" They suddenly heard Kaneko's voice, "Is me." Rias then said, "Kaneko, is it okay for you to be awake? I'm sorry for worrying you." Rias then said to Issei, "Kaneko is a survivor of the most powerful Nekashu clan. She is the descendant of top-class spirits that mastered the sage arts." Issei then looked at Kaneko for he was worried about her. Meanwhile the event has already begun. Azazel tried stopping Garou, but sadly, Garou still went to the event even if he isn't uninvited. Lots of young devils were surprised by this uninvited guest, some of them were terrified just by the look of him while the others were feeling courageous enough to face him, but once they tried to attack him, Garou just easily defeats them and he said, "I thought the devils here might be strong, but they're just weaklings." The young devils heard this and it angered them, but as they were going to continue fighting, they can suddenly sense a terrifying aura emanating from him. It made their spines shiver across their back, for their senses are telling them to stay away from him. Suddenly one young devil said, "Stop this fighting." But he started it. Zephyr was interrupted by Saraerg. "Stop talking, problem child of the glacial Ebola's family, Zephyr. Are you calling problem child if you keep talking like that I'll. This is a sudden, but this is your last warning." Saraerg then began to crack his knuckles. "Any more problems and you'll have to deal with me," Saraerg said to them. Zephyr then replied, "You incompetent fool of the Bale family." Suddenly Saraerg punched Zephyr and it sent him crashing down into the wall. Luckily Issei and some of the OCR club manages to dodge Zephyr before he hits the wall. Saraerg then looks at the other one and said, "How about you princess of the Agar's family, Sigvera? You need to stop causing trouble too or you'll end up like him." He then points at Zephyr. Garou then said, "The devils here act like some spoiled brats." Saraerg noticed Garou and he said, "Who are you? You are not invited to this party, you must leave now." Garou then said, "What are you going to do about it?" Saraerg can feel Garou's terrifying aura, but he still tried to not be pushed back by it. He then said, "You must leave now, this is your last warning." Garou then thinks to himself, "I'm feeling excited, for I get to test my strength on someone." Garou then said, "I've given you a chance to back off, but it seems that you really want to die." Everyone can feel Garou's terrifying aura until suddenly it stopped when Azazel came and said, "Stop, this is no place for a fight, why not take it somewhere else, or even why not take it out in a rating game?" Saraerg said, "Rating game? Interesting idea." Garou asked Azazel, "What's a rating game?" Azazel was about to say something, but suddenly something caught Garou's attention, for he can sense something nearby, even Kaneko sensed something and left. Issei and Rias noticed something odd when they saw Kaneko heading somewhere else, so they followed her. As Kaneko was on the elevator, she noticed Garou beside her on the elevator. Garou said, "Where are you going?" Kaneko then answered, "I've felt a presence coming from somewhere and I need to go there." Garou said, "So you felt something too? Well, that explains it." Garou then thinks to himself, "This must be the Monster Association again, if that's the case. I can't let her get involved in our fight. What am I thinking? I don't care what's going to happen to her, cause I'm a monster." Kaneko then headed for the direction where the source of where it is coming from, while Garou followed her. He tried to make himself move as fast as her, so that he could watch her. Kaneko said in her mind, "I'm sure I felt it, that presence." Kaneko then heard someone familiar. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" When Kaneko arrived, Garou then his himself, while Kaneko then looked up in the tree and she said, "As I thought." "Hello Shirin." The voice said. "Big sister Kuroka." Kaneko said. Kaneko's sister then said, "I've only sent a little bit of my Kai your way and you came rushing over. Big sister is really moved." Naya. Kaneko then replied, "Sis, what is the meaning of this? Don't make such a scary face." Kaneko's sister said. "I heard there was a big party going on. So it just perked my interest a little." Naya. Meanwhile, Issei and Rias are heading to Kaneko's direction. Issei then said, "I hope Kaneko is okay. She's been acting strange lately." Rias then said, "Kaneko is trying her best to face her own power and very existence." Rias then had a flashback during the time when she was with Kaneko on her room. "How are you adjusting?" Rias asked. "I'm sorry." Kaneko answered. Rias replied, "No, I know just how hard you always try." Kaneko then said, "I want to become strong." Rias then said, "I understand that, but there's no meaning if you destroy your health." Kaneko then said, "Yudo, Zenobia, Akeno and Issei. I want to strengthen my mind and body like them. Even Gasper is getting stronger and I don't have powers to heal others like Asia. Rias then said, Kaneko, you've also. She was then interrupted by Kaneko. Kaneko said, at this rate, I'll become useless. Even though I'm a rook, I'm the weakest. I don't want to be useless. But I don't want to use my Nekomata powers. If I use them, I'll be like sis. I can't let that happen ever again. Rias then hugged Kaneko. Then back to reality, Issei then said, her existence and her power. Rias then replied, this is a hurdle, Kaneko must overcome herself. Rias then thought to herself, right, a hurdle everyone faces alone. Back to the place where the event is, Asia said I don't see Issei anywhere. Zenobia then also said, come to think of it, I don't see President Rias either. While Azazel then said, oh, good work, Barachiel. While Auden approaches, it's been a while you shitty old man from the northern countryside. Azazel said to Auden. Auden then replied, it's been a long time, you bratty fallen angel. Sir Zich Lucifer then said, Lord Auden, God of the North. Auden then said, Sir Zeches, I came in response to your invitation. Welcome Lord Auden. Seraphol then bowed to Auden. Not good Seraphol. Auden said to her. Seraphol responded, yes. A young girl like you shouldn't be in drab clothing at a party. Well then. Seraphol said as she begins to change her clothes. Auden then said, oh what is this? Oh, you don't know this is a magical girl. Auden holding his beard said, it's not bad. Auden's bodyguard then said, please think of your position, Lord Auden you represent all of Valhalla. Auden then said, goodness, you're always so serious, that is why you can't get yourself a single hero for yourself. She then kneeled and began to cry. She then began to say, I'm just an unattractive Valkyrie whose age equals the number of years I've been alone. Auden then said, sorry, this here is Roswius, she's talented, but too serious. She can't get a single boyfriend. I'm very sorry for making you wait. Michael said as he just arrived and he then also said, Lord Auden, I'm glad to see you in good health. Then someone familiar came and Zenobia said, Irina. Back to the others outside. Bear watches them fight and he said to himself, so I guess that's her sister, based on her similarities with Kaneko. Bear then watches them as they begin to fight. So that's how strong their opponents, I can read the way they fight, it's nothing special. Back to the place where the event is held. Everyone were busy fighting Loki and his dog Fenrir until suddenly a transparent portal opened and it made Loki and the others stop fighting for they were distracted by it and someone came out of it, a man with a beard, long hair and a crown on his head came out of it, he also seems to have this small spheres of light surrounding him. He then grabbed someone out of the portal and it shocked Asia, Zenobia and the others for it was their friend, Akatsuki. Her arms were tied around her body, even her mouth was also tied too. This man then said, I am Homeless Emperor and I come here to make a trade with one of Garou the hero hunter's companions, one of them is bald, while the other one wears glasses just like this girl, they also seem to have a kid with them and they also have 3 tiny monsters with them. The entire OCR knew who he was talking about and they don't want to trade Issei's friends, but they still need to save her or he'll do something to her, they don't even know his powers yet. Some of the devils don't care, well some shouted at him, hey, who are you? We're not gonna listen to some human like you. They then charged at him, but it only ended with them getting shot by his spheres of light, they shouted in pain as they got hit by it. Loki, furious by this newcomer interfering with his plans, decided to charge at him. Homeless Emperor's light spheres seemed to not be effective against Fenrir, so he decided to use a bigger sphere of light to blast him, but as he throws the blast to Fenrir, something unexpected happened. Motohama sneaked beside Ikakiryu and he pushed her and tried to restrain Homeless Emperor, but Homeless Emperor with his instincts tried to create a tiny light sphere to shoot at him, but he was soon stopped when Mitsuda and the 3 tiny monsters came out of nowhere and they jumped on Homeless Emperor and restrained him, but still the small sphere of light made its way to Motohama and it injured his leg so badly. While Loki and Fenrir were trying to survive Homeless Emperor's blast, someone began casting a spell on Loki and Loki looked at who's casting when he heard, you're full of openings. Loki looked and recognized him, as he said, Beelzebub. He and Fenrir then got teleported away. While Homeless Emperor was being restrained, Asia healed Motohama's injury. Homeless Emperor then said, do you think you can restrain me for so long? I can eliminate you all at once. Black Sperm then said, if you want to free yourself, you have to risk of getting caught in one of your light spheres, and your threat to hurt anyone in this place is pointless, since they all are strong. Homeless Emperor replied, how did you manage to sneak behind me without getting seen by me? Mitsuda answered, this tiny black monster told us about your weakness and he helped us get to sneak behind you while you were distracted. Azazel then said, you two, Issei's friends, how did you got in her, since you weren't invited? Mitsuda scratched his head and said, well, Issei helped us and this monsters just seem to follow us where we are going. Azazel then said, Issei, where's Issei? Zenobia said to Azazel, he went out with Prez a while ago. Azazel then said, well, I'll talk to him later when he comes back. Black Sperm then asked Homeless Emperor, how are you doing those light spheres cause they seem to come from somewhere else and I didn't know you can make a light sphere that big. Homeless Emperor then said, why are you helping them Black Sperm that's kinda not like you. Black Sperm answered, cause if you hurt the human companions of Garou, he's gonna do something worse to me. Homeless Emperor then said, actually, I'm just a bait to lure him in, cause Psycho's plan was to take Garou's human companions as hostage, since there's a chance he might not care about us using different people he doesn't know, but it was impossible since Garou is around them, so we decided to take someone they know as hostage, to lure them in and when we have them, I'll wait for Garou to come close to me and we go as planned. But since you're here, our plans have changed. Suddenly the portal where Homeless Emperor and Ikakiryu came through close and another portal began to open underneath them and it began to suck them in. Chapter 7 While Kaneko's big sister Kuroka and her companion Biku began attacking, Garou watches, for he liked to see how much Kaneko has improved in her training. After a while, Kaneko almost went to her sister, but she changed her mind due to the words of the redhead, Kaneko's sister. Kuroka suddenly did a poison spell that works on demons and spirits, and only Issei and Garou, who is hiding somewhere, seems to be unaffected by it. Issei then shouted, President, Kaneko-chan. Kuroka then said, it works so well with devils and spirits. I guess it doesn't work on dragons, though. Issei shouted, you. Kuroka then said, I weakened the poison, so they won't die immediately. I'll kill you all slowly. Garou, who is somewhere in the background, said to himself, I guess I must be immune to this spell which she cast on them, probably must be due to my monsterification. Garou then looks at Kaneko and he said to himself, stand up and do what I taught you. Kaneko then began breathing deeply and Ria said, Kaneko, what's happening to you? Kuroka then said, I only just weakened the poison, you'll only act like that if you're weak enough to handle it. Issei then said, stop it. Suddenly Kaneko stood up and she jumped at the branch of the tree where her sister was sitting at Ria's, then shouted, Kaneko. Kaneko then tried to use the water-flowing smashing rock fist on her, but she suddenly teleported on the farther side of the branch. Kaneko then used iron whirlwind cutting fist to cut the branch where her big sister is at, and when it fell, her big sister then teleported on the ground. Her sister said, wow, you've become strong Shirin, but you're still not strong enough to beat me. Kaneko went back down on the ground and as her big sister stood in the ground, ready for another attack, Kaneko came charging and as Kuroka was going to land an attack on her, Kaneko suddenly punches the ground and it created many cracks that it made her big sister Kuroka off balance for a while, then Kaneko began to use the tank top tackle on her. As it was going to hit, Kuroka suddenly teleported in a safe distance away from Kaneko. Kuroka then asked, I'm impressed Shirin at how you're able to keep up with me, where did you learn those Shirin? Kaneko answered, I've learned this from Garou-senpai. Kuroka then asked, Garou-senpai. Kaneko then charged at her, trying to deliver water-flowing smashing rock fist attacks, but they were dodged and blocked by Kuroka's spells. Kaneko then tried to use iron whirlwind to injure her, not to kill her since she's her sister, but her spells managed to protect her from getting hurt. She then teleported beside Kaneko and tried to fire a blast on her, but Kaneko dodged it by rolling away. Kuroka then said, I guess, I'll not take you lightly, I'll welcome you with a mix of sage and demon arts. She then tried firing multiple blasts at Kaneko. Kaneko tried dodging them while she thinks to herself, how do I beat her? The techniques I used were not effective against her magic, I guess I need to get away from her attacks, then find an opening, and I guess I'll have to find out if this final technique I've learned will work on her. While Kaneko was busy dodging, Garou's reaction to the fight was, spells are a pain in the ass, water flowing, smashing rock fist, and iron whirlwind cutting fist doesn't do anything, both the old geezer's fighting style doesn't have any counters on spells, I don't remember anyone who can cast spells back in my world, cause if there was, I would have learned how to cast spells too. If I was still human, I would have a hard time fighting an opponent like that, I'll see if she can use the combination of the two fighting styles. Meanwhile Kaneko suddenly got pushed when one of the blasts suddenly exploded in front of her way. Garou almost stepped in, but when he noticed Issei trying to get Kuroka's attention and it worked, he back off. While Kuroka she fired some blast on Issei, he tried to shield the redhead instead of dodging it. It reminded Garou of Mumen Rider and Garou grew a little bit annoyed by it. When he heard Issei's plan, Garou was weirded out by it due to it being so perverted. Even Kaneko took back her words a while ago of telling him to be a kind Welsh dragon and she then started saying to him, you're the worst. A perverted red dragon emperor. While Garou did not peek the whole time when the redhead showed her boobs to him, Garou also said, you pervert. While not looking. When Garou heard Issei transformation, he then guessed that it's okay to look already. Issei then got a power boost and when Kuroka was going to use the same attack she used on Kaneko, but Issei just took multiple blasts from her and he didn't even had a scratch on him, she kept firing and firing, But her blast seems to be doing nothing to him, and when he arrived in front of her, he delivered one punch and made it stop near her face, and the symbol on her back suddenly got destroyed by this force. Garou was still weirded out by how strong he became just by doing perverted things. Issei then said, while at the same time Garou appeared in front of Kaneko and said, "Are you okay?" Rias was surprised at Garou when he suddenly appeared without making a sound. Rias shouted, "How long were you watching us, Garou?" Garou shouted, "So you know, I arrived with Kaneko before you both came here, I just hid in the cover of the trees." Issei was going to say something to Kuroka, but was interrupted when Garou caught her attention. Kuroka said, "So you're Garou?" Garou replied, "Yes, what about it?" He then gave a terrifying glare on Kuroka, and she suddenly felt his terrifying presence, and it sent shivers down her spine, due to her instincts warning her about this person. Issei then got her attention back on him when he said, "Don't make my junior cry if you target Kaneko again, even if you're a woman or Kaneko's big sister, you are my enemy." Issei's words made her forget about her fear as she got irritated at Issei. She then jumped back and shouted to Issei, "You shitty brat." But suddenly her companion grabbed her. Kuroka replied to Biku, "What are you doing? It's not over yet." Her companion answered, "You got so excited, you didn't notice." Kuroka then replied, "Holoki's presence, why?" Biku answered, "Who knows, but we don't have time to play around anymore." They then entered a weird portal. Garou replied, "It does not look similar to the portal that I'm used to, since it's too colorful." Garou then said to Kaneko, "Don't worry, you did well in your fight, it's just magic are a pain in the ass, you just need to keep training." Kaneko then said, "I'm sorry, I haven't used the combination of the two techniques on her." Bear replied, "Don't make it bother you, you know now how she fights, you just have to keep training until you become stronger than her." Kaneko was again inspired by Garou's words. She tried to stand up, but the effects of the poison is starting to take an effect, since the breathing technique she used to make her able to resist the poison is starting to disappear. Kaneko then fell, and Garou caught her. Issei and Rias shouted, "Kaneko." They then went back to the place where the events happened, and they found out what just happened. Terio, who is with Azazel, shouted, Mister, I thought you disappeared too." Garou said, "Stop crying, why are you here and what the hell happened here?" Azazel said, "The kid is with me, cause I thought that you were with the kid, so I went to him, but when he learned what happened, he came with me." Azazel then also said to Garou about the events that took place when they were gone. Garou's reaction was, "So the Monster Association are planning to use them as a hostage against me, like hell it would work." Terio said, "But mister, they didn't do anything wrong, please save them, just like how you saved me and the others before." Garou said, "I thought I told you before, it's just a coincidence that I came and saved you all, I just saved them before, cause they are useful, but now I don't need them anymore. They will become a hindrance to me, if I'll save them." Terio then said, "But Meist, please save them." Garou then said, "Fine, whatever. But I'm not doing this because I want to, I'm doing this so that I could end the Monster Association once and for all." Issei then replied to Garou, "I'll come too, since they are my friends." "Me too, since I'm also their president, it's my responsibilities to protect them," Rias said. And suddenly, Sona Citri came and said, "I'm coming too with my chess pieces, cause I think you need all the help you can get, since we don't know what we are facing." Rias and Issei was surprised by this, and they thanked her for the help she is offering. Garou then said, "Since all of you are coming, don't try doing anything stupid, you got that." They then all agreed. After a while when they were finished preparing themselves, Kaneko suddenly came and said to Rias, "Prez, can I come and join you all in rescuing them?" Rias said, "But Kaneko, you did all what you can a while ago during your fight with your sister, you still need a little bit of rest." Kaneko replied, "I don't like to lose some of my friends, please let me come." Rias then said, "Okay, but you need to stay close to us, since we don't know where we are going." As everyone will enter the portal in the floor, Issei then said, "Where's Garou?" Everyone noticed that he is suddenly gone. Azazel then said he left a while ago, since he was running of patience and waiting for you all. Azazel then gave them a box with 3 phoenix tears, and they then entered the portal. Chapter 8. Somewhere in a different dimension a few hours ago, Bitsuda, Motohama, Asia, Zenobia, Akeno, Kiba, Gasper, Irina and the other monsters including Homeless Emperor, fell down in a place that's similar to where the event was being held, except there were no people. The group wondered where they are at first, and the Occult Research Club knew that this is another dimension that is similar to the dimension where they fought Riser Phoenix. Blacksperm managed to keep his restraint on Homeless Emperor when they fell, and while Motohama is busy untying Akakiryu. Blacksperm then asks, "Where is Psycho's hiding? Tell me where she is, or I'll murder you instantly." Homeless Emperor then replied, "I'm not gonna tell you anything, you know what I'm capable Blacksperm, I'm stronger than you, your restraint won't hold me for long." Blacksperm then said, "You're welcome to use your powers on me, but I already know your weakness, you're only as strong as a normal human. You can't do it unless you want to get killed by your powers in the process, and besides, I can just kill you instantly, since we're here waiting for help, why not explain to me your powers?" Homeless Emperor then said, fine, I'll do it, but you need to promise me that you'll spare my life. Black Sperm then said, deal. He said it, even though he didn't mean it. Homeless Emperor then said that he was once a regular person. He was fired from his job due to him dancing naked in front of his boss cause of his fellow employees, telling him to do it. He then lost his home, and when he began living outside, he came to an understanding that humans needs to die. So he tried to kill himself so his body will go back to the soil, but until a mysterious being appeared in front of him and offered him his powers. Black Sperm then said, who was this being? Homeless Emperor was sweating for his waiting for psychos and some of their new allies to show up, but for the meantime, he needs to stall Black Sperm. Homeless Emperor then asks, do you want to know about God, Black Sperm? That word managed to catch the attention of the others. Homeless Emperor was then about to say what he knows about him, but suddenly he was brought in a field and he appears to be wearing no clothes. He said, huh, Black Sperm, the hell is this place? He was then surprised when he saw a being that appeared in front of him and the being then said, silence, I am taking it back. Homeless Emperor then answered, who the hell are you? Back in reality, since Homeless Emperor never got teleported away, he began acting weird in front of Black Sperm who said, hey, what's the matter, Homeless Emperor, it looks like you saw a ghost. Homeless Emperor was just saying, go. While the voice of the mysterious being in his head is saying, your power, your life, I am taking them all. Homeless Emperor then finished what he was saying, God, as he was dying. Black Sperm then said, hey, you said God, hey answer me. Homeless Emperor's body then began to get destroyed. Black Sperm was surprised by this and he then began to guess that Homeless Emperor was being used the whole time before he joined Monster Association. Suddenly there was a huge noise and when it appeared, it seems to be a group of robots that are going to attack them. They then began to fight them. A few hours later, Garou entered the dimension and began searching for them until suddenly he can hear a fight happening near him, so he then approached the source of the sound and he saw them being cornered by those robots. Garou then easily defeats them and when it's over, he said, what's this, robots now are teaming up with the Monster Association. Bitsuda and Motohama then shouted, Master. Garou then said, what happened and why are there robots? Motohama then said, they were too powerful, I guess you could say two cyborg monsters that chased us all a while ago, have you defeated it already? Bear replies, what do you mean cyborg monsters? All of a sudden, there was a loud noise coming behind Garou. When he looked, he saw two familiar faces. Motohama then said, those are the ones I'm talking about. Garou then said, so it's the two monsters whom I thought I already destroyed your bodies into pieces. I don't even know how they put you back together, since when the dimension collapsed, your pieces will be hard to find. The voice of Psychos was then heard, as she said, when I rescued Homeless Emperor, I also collected as much of their pieces that I can find. I tried to fix them, but it seems impossible to do, so based on the instructions I got from the mysterious being, I partnered myself with an organization that helped in attaching what's left of their body parts together, while the rest of their body was replaced by mechanical parts, so I want you to meet Cyborg Gums and Cyborg Fur Ugly. Barry then said, I'm impressed by them coming back, but the only thing is that once I'm done with them, they are going to be just pieces of metal scraps. The two former cadres of Monster Association came charging at Garou and Garou just easily deflects their attacks to each other. Gums with a now bigger mouth, due to his suborgification tried to devour Garou whole, but he only ended up devouring his ally Cyborg Fur Ugly. The enhanced acid of Gums damaged the chip controlling Gums' mind and after a while, the real Fur Ugly gained control of his body and he then begins to break his way out of Cyborg Gums by ripping Cyborg Gums into two from the inside to outside. Once he came out, he has now become vomited Fur Ugly. Fur Ugly then said, what happened? He looked everywhere and he couldn't find Garou and the others for they had went away while he was being devoured by Cyborg Gums. Fur Ugly then touched his face and he grew shocked to find out that his body seems to be melting. All he could remember was him being beat up by Garou. He didn't knew that he had died and all the metal parts of his body seems to be in a liquid state due to the enhanced acid of Cyborg Gums. That's why Fur Ugly didn't notice that he also became a cyborg. Somewhere in this dimension, Kaneko and the others are searching for Garou and the others who have been kidnapped into this dimension. Suddenly she hears something walking towards her and when she looks at it, she sees a huge bug-like creature with what seemed to be robot parts. She didn't know that this monster standing in front of was once the monster bug god whom Garou killed before, but now he has been reborn as cyborg bug god. Then they both began to charge at each other. Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown and left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.